Yes, yes, yes. Big up everybody. Let me send out the link. How y'all doing? We're here for the last round. The last round of the common ground between Buddhism and Islam by Reza Shah Kazemi. We've gone through the whole book. It's been an interesting ride. Pick up everyone in the chat. Sheena, good to have you. Dr. Mason in the house.
Yeah, yes.
Good evening, my wonderful co-host, the
Good
grand
evening.
Mr. Pelu.
Thank you for hosting me, my great friend and host of the beautiful Jen Wallace channel, Miss Jen Wallace.
Thank you,
Jen
thank
Wallace
you.
Network, yeah. We here. Jen Wallace
But
Network. Um, Continuation of the reading, A Common Ground Between Islam and Buddhism. We're winding down and as I don't got too much to say in the beginning right now. Jen, will you have anything to say about it? I hand the floor over to Jen.
yeah, no, I was just saying it's been an interesting ride. It's been a great series. Like I enjoyed it. I learned a lot and a lot of interesting concepts, some history thrown in there, some good tangents we went on, like good little side trips that we went on. It's been good, man. It's been good. Do you remember what page we were on? Big up, got a Jacob.
Oh, GLJ, what's up?
I
We were on. I think we were on.
I
I
don't
think
know.
we're on 155 on the reader.
Okay.
130 on the page.
Yep, perfect. All right, let me get the screen share up and we can get it cracking. Crazy day online today in these YouTube streets.
What's been going on? I don't know. I don't know what's going on YouTube. Like the only thing on YouTube on is you really and I'm not. What did Veli come back or something? Like what's on whose network is stuff going down?
Unfortunately, no, the G Block is not back yet. Hopefully he'll be back soon, but yeah, I don't even really want to. Yeah, just a lot of karma going on. A lot of
Okay, then
things coming. Like it's so
it's
crazy.
more in the Dharmic people circles. It's more in the Dharmic people.
No, no,
Is it
no, but
everybody?
no, but we're sitting back and we're just watching like the wheels spin and the karma get like come to fruition, and we're just like, wow, like this is just so amazing. So it's crazy. It's been a ride, but yeah, I shouldn't even tarnish this stream with no
Okay.
BS. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I even did that for a solo, like different one.
Yeah. I understand. I understand.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's been interesting. All right, so yeah, we were
I think
okay.
we're
This
at
was
the one.
about Buddha in the Quran, right? That's where we started at. Yeah, about the Al Qadr.
Yeah, but
Remember?
I kid her. Yeah, but I kid her that. I
Yeah,
mean, as it is this is an extremely weak case. The Kiddo case
yeah,
was
definitely.
an
Yeah, 100%.
extremely weak case.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 100%. All right, we'll get it cracking. Um, actually, one second. Let me just. This kid is so loud. One second. Okay, so here we go. Once people have entered into a protected status, irrespective of their religion, they're allowed to travel freely in the lands of Muslims. There's only one sacred area in the Arabian Peninsula that's exempted, as the Prophet reserved it for only Muslims and asked his followers to relocate from that area those people who are practicing other religions, which included Jews, Christians, and polytheists. The mere fact that he mentioned the polytheists in this hadith is a clear indication that non Muslims are not forced to conversion or killed if they refuse conversion. A small minority of Muslim scholars, however, takes an extreme position, citing the Quranic verse which states that Muslims should seek out and kill those polytheists who violated their treaty with the Muslims by treacherously killing unarmed Muslims in Quran 9:5. Yet the verse immediately following that states, "But they should appeal to you for security, then grant them such an order for them to hear the word of God, and after escort them to a place where they can be secure." That is because they are people without knowledge in 9:6.
Okay, okay. So let's go over that real quick. So he's saying that he's giving the correct evidence, right? And he's showing you what some people might say against the correct evidence. But yes, he's giving you the correct evidence on that part because he's showing that he's showing that the demon status was there, and it's showing what Islam is about because it's saying that because they're people without knowledge, right? But it's like, what is Islam then? That Islam would be knowledge because if the rejected Islam is not as not knowledge, Islam would be knowledge. So this is what like we call marifa. Like Islam is a mysticism or spiritual knowledge, right? I mean, and we know there's other types of spiritual knowledge too, but we have a certain way of doing things. So it was something else I was going to get at. That was very important. Okay. Oh yeah, yes, yeah, yeah. I have to get out the issue of the Yeah, what I really came to get at. What I really came to get at was from this part was about the they were allowed to freely travel in the Muslim lands, right? Because it shows you the Islamic Empire and the Islamic Caliphate, right? And it's also there's only one sacred area in the Arab Peninsula exempted, as the Prophet reserved it only for as the Prophet of the Prophet as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam reserved it only for Muslims and asked his followers to relocate from those areas those who were practicing other religions, including Jews, Christians, and polytheists. Yes, I want to get to that because Mecca itself is the haram, right? In Mecca, only Muslims can come to Mecca. And then Mecca and the haram
Right. Yeah,
is
and you
only
can't
available
go
for
through
Muslims.
there. And then there's like roads that say Muslim and roads for non Muslims, like to go around there or through there, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because only Muslims go there because it's made a sacred place. It's only to for the expression of because the whole area is like a big mosque and it's a sacred mosque.
Hmm.
The whole town is considered like you're inside a mosque. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
The whole city is considered like that. So yeah, so yeah, so that's what I want to emphasize. And shout out Oneness and shout out Carter for coming through.
Big up, Victor. Big up. Um, so I always kind of thought of that, right? Like, I totally understand the meaning behind it and its sacredness, and I appreciate that. But I'm wondering if that's like the only place on earth where it's like a kind kind of like a theocratic kind of mm, all I can think of is ethno state, but I'm trying to think of a different like name for an ethno state,
Yeah, yeah,
like a
it's a
ethno like a
it's
theocratic state or something
yeah,
or like
it's a it's a I don't even know how to say what it. It's
yeah,
like a
yeah, but
sacred
you know
place.
what I'm trying to get at. Where like
It,
only
yeah.
one person is allowed in by like religion. Some is there anywhere else on the planet like that where like
No,
only Christians are
no,
allowed or only Jews are allowed?
no,
Mm.
and 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 the thing about it though, he's using a Abu Dawud. So he's not using Buhari or he's not using Muslim, but he's using Abu Dawud. But even but Abu Dawud in the Sunni world is still part of the six, right? Abu Dawud is still part of the six that they use, even though it's not Buhari and
Mm-hmm.
um and Muslim, right?
Right.
Uh, I don't know how strong this hadith is because only because I know from the Quranic evidence I know is that uh, um 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 he restricted it from for um for a monotheist, right? So
Mm.
hypothetically speaking, I knew from a Quranic. I mean, I've always thought in my reading of the Quran that that was that was due to it being sacred for monotheists, and that really the real Quranic law is only mountains could be there, but we have like a sunnah or just like or even like a custom, more like just a custom of it being only Muslims to protect its condition as being haven for monotheism.
Hmm. But that would mean that Jews would be allowed in there as well, right?
Yes, yeah, yeah. I think Quranically, yes. I might argue for that. I mean, I would have to get into that topic. It's a deep talk. We get to go to the evidence for it. I would have to go back. I would have to come back to this if we have a follow up or anything like that. We have a follow up episode or something like that. I would have to get the evidences and come back to it. Just the same way I was gonna come. I would come back to that and add to the what I was gonna come back about the Kaaba and everything. All that's in the Haram, right?
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yes.
so you think by the hadith adds the Muslim aspect and really it was monotheist?
Yes, 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 yes. But I don't think this is like a strong idea that always. I think it's something that can be done. Like it can be strict to the Muslims, but I don't think it has to be. Like what I'm saying is, I think we're allowed to restrict to Muslims, but if we feel comfortable other people coming in who are monotheist, just to be in the zone, I think it might be passable. I mean, but that's his own study. It's a big tangent, his own study, but that's how I think from the Quranic citations of restrictions from people being in the haram.
Hmm.
So exactly, we say yeah, it has. Oh yeah, because the sunnah, and the sunnah which we get evidence from in hadith always is things that add to the Quran anyway. That's just how Islam is built. It's built upon you start with the Quran, but then you add upon it with the sunnah. This is how Islam is.
Right, right. It adds like background and text context for the script, right?
Yeah, and it gives us practical applications of how it should be implemented.
Mhm.
You understand?
According to
The Sunnah. We should implement the Quran according to Sunnah of the Prophet who delivered the Quran to us. Muhammad, peace
so
and blessing be upon him.
so the people that cuz he didn't write it and it was formed while he like when were these things
God, yeah, yeah.
documented after
We
he
ha-
was
we we
alive?
have to separate Sunnah from Hadith. Sunnah from Hadith, because one thing a lot of people don't understand is that Sunnah and Hadith are not synonymous. It's easy to think it is if you're not familiar with the study of Islamic jurisprudence. And I'm not even an expert. I'm not a faqih. I'm not qualified at all. But even somebody who's had an amateur dive, an amateur study, and has had an amateur study into the matter of Islamic fiqh. I know if you hadn't had that kind of dive or that kind of study, you might think hadith and sunnah are synonymous, but they're not.
So how
Right?
do you find out the sunnah?
The study of hadith and other things, and study of the histories and things like that. The study, okay, yes, is the study of hadith and knowing the trends behind that hadith, the policy behind that hadith is basically historiography historiography of the prophetic sunnah using the evidences have using the evidences we have primarily hadith and logical histories of what went on, all put together and other parts
Like
of hadith.
recorded history, right? Like recorded histories.
Yeah,
Or
yeah, but yeah,
yeah.
these are recorded history. Yeah, that's why
So
we can we collect the hadiths, but the hadiths are to be studied. You know what I'm
right.
saying? They're not necessarily, but you don't say, "Oh, it's a hadith. I'm just going to read it how I want to read it," and that's the thing. It has to be studied for it first. Its authenticity, it can be verified. So to make it strong or weak or whatever, so give it its proper classification, and it has to be put in the context of the policy that we can see as a trend or yeah, or the week the like something that we could see as policy and know it to be policy. That's how we should read into the hadith as a policy positions of the prophet himself. So
Mhm.
we're trying to extract the policy positions of the prophet himself, using hadith as evidence of sunnah. Hadith provides dalil or evidence for sunnah,
Okay.
but hadith shouldn't be taken as face value. It should be hadith is a study. Before we can say the hadith is sunnah. If it's not the study, it's not sunnah. And if it's not the study and the extrapolation of policy, like there's the study and extrapolation of policy from the study, that's what we call the sunnah.
Okay. That's
You understand?
interesting. 'Cause I thought like, you find the sunnah in the hadith, like from those, like, those examples are where you kind of, he did this in this situation. So then people study that and they collect it, right? And then they
Yeah,
compile them. And then you end up with like fiqh books and things like this, right?
to a certain extent, right? But let me give you one practical example, right? One way you notice is okay, and I'm even gonna give you one source that's even understood by Sunni world and even Shia world too, and that's the Amal of Medina, right? Like we have something called the Amal of Medina in Islam, right? It used to
Mm,
come the Orthodox have it. Everybody has this concept of the Amal of Medina, right? Even in the Sunni world, Imam Malik was known as being the champion of the Amal of Medina within the Sunni world, right? And the Amal of Medina is the practices and policies of the people of Medina. Like, for example, if something has only one hadith or might otherwise be seen weak, right? Be
mm,
seen weak, right? All right, but if it matches what the people of Medina were doing at the time what people of Medina were doing, like especially early as possible, especially like in the early days, what early Medina was doing is one of the best examples of the practical policies of the Prophet Muhammad, because that's where the Prophet Muhammad lived and that's where the Prophet Muhammad developed Islam, because he didn't develop that much in Mecca because there was always under persecution. That's where Medina is where Islam first flourished when they did the hijrah to Medina.
mm.
So what they do over there in the Amal of Medina actually gives weight to Sunnah, and we actually judge hadiths a lot of times in light of the Amal of Medina, what we've seen there, and we give things that and we give hadiths citing precedents that are seen in the Amal of Medina more weight because it matches what we see as the most practical as the most as one of the strong indications of practical sunnah, because these people live with the prophet and their families and their everything, seeing what the prophet did firsthand, and they're the ones who preserve the sunnah from what they've seen in their commitment to keeping the right tradition was well known.
How can you like trust that what those people were saying were like legit? Like it seems
Yeah,
like
it's a
it,
whole science.
yeah,
Like you have to know who. Like, cause look, I'm gonna give you an example, right? One of the main hadith.
down to like character. Like this guy was a good character. Like
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
this and blah blah blah.
because yeah,
But
because like even some of the main ones who one some of the main hadith narrators, even some of the main ones. a lot of people have issues with them. Even some of the main ones, like Abu Huraira. A lot of
Mm,
people have issues with Abu Huraira. I'm not an expert on the on the issues people have with Abu Huraira that much. I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert on the nature of the issue, but a lot of people a lot of people find Abu Hurairah problematic. I'm not saying I endorse that position. I'm just putting it out there for for the understanding of the people. So what I'm saying is, yeah, is a whole study to this. Is a whole study to this to find out whose is more stronger. That's why some things link to Medina, some things link to other things. It's like certain things that we just see, and like even like another example is if something comes from Ahlul Bayt, like like everybody recognizes Ahlul Bayt, but some people recognize them more than others. Like for example, Shia try to say everything they do is coming from Ahlul Bayt. You know what I'm trying to say? So and that's Ahlul Bayt, for everybody doesn't know, is the Prophet's family, most especially his daughter Fatima, and the son Ali and his descendants, Hassan and Hussein. They're the ones who like continue the prophetic descendants, right? But
mm,
but um but but yeah, even certain things like that, some people find what they use LL Bait as a strong claim for certain stuff too, especially she is. But even us, even not only LL Bait, we also use the believers too. Like for example, one of the great scholars in Al Aqwali Kama is actually Aisha. I consider the great scholar in Kama, and she was a teacher of one of our foundational scholars, um, Jabir ibn Zayd. His teacher was Fatima. I'm sorry, not Fatima. I'm sorry, Aisha. His teacher was Aisha, and that's the prophet's wife. The prophet's wife is seen as a foundational scholar. Is seen as a foundational scholar in Al Waqf al Istiqamah.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Aisha considered a foundational scholar, and yeah. So like things like that. What we get from Aisha, we hold to be really, really strong. It's just because it comes from Aisha more than it comes from everybody else. If Aisha said this, I was done. Even if a bunch of other we say another way, we expect attention to how what Aisha says. See the nuances of what she's saying because she was living with the prophet, and that was the one with them.
Your mic
I
is
mean,
doing that thing again. It just
okay,
started now.
okay, then wait, okay, I'm gonna turn my yeah, I'm gonna turn my okay, I'm back, right?
Yep.
Okay, so it should stop now. So it should be good now.
Okay.
Hoping because I think without just my internet being weak sometimes. So I just switched to data. Okay.
All right. Cool. We'll see how that goes. All right. So it says even though Buddhists and Hindus were oppressed at times under Muslims, more often than not they were protected, as were their places of worship. Some also achieved positions of high rank in Muslim society. These were the times when Muslims were practicing the best of their tradition. The Prophet Muhammad said, whoever opposes a non Muslim who has a covenant with Muslim, or who even belittles him or forces him to do something he is unable to do, or who takes from him anything that he is not satisfied in giving, I will argue against the Muslim on the day of judgment on behalf of the non Muslim.
Okay. Let's see citation. He says the Sahih Hadith from um
36 Abu
Abu
Dawood.
Abu Dawud. Yeah. He said, okay. Yeah. 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 Okay. Hold on. So yeah. Okay. So which one was I trying to get before that?
I don't
I was
know why I
trying
can't highlight like the stuff anymore. The sources. It's weird. All right, do you want me to continue as you try to find it, or
No,
uh,
no, no. No, try to find what. No, but anyway, hey, shout out James. What's up, James? Anyway, yeah, no, 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 no. It's nothing. I don't want to try to find out. I was just saying about the hadiths being used, and I addressed the issue before. But yeah, yeah. But on that behalf, it's from it's from Abu Dawud. It don't sound bad. It don't sound bad. Don't sound bad. I'm nothing wrong with it. They say that the people might argue against them. I mean, I mean, if the people who argue against them are among the Muslims. Those people will call. Who were most often okay. The Muslim said okay, the Prophet Muhammad said, whosoever oppresses a non-Muslim, who has a covenant with the Muslims or belittles him to force him. Okay, so if he has a covenant with the Muslims, I mean, I don't know. I gotta see this hadith and know if it's strong because I'm trying to see how we trying to come with it. But 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 it doesn't mean we should oppress. We definitely shouldn't oppress the people who have a covenant. That's why they make they make the covenant. Right? It's just the way he's wording it. But yeah, yeah. But that's why they made the covenant. We're supposed to respect the covenants that we made um um in Dima. So yeah, it's nothing. It's nothing wrong with it. I'm not. I don't. I mean, yeah. Okay.
the age of tribute and protected status (dima) of others under Muslim rule is long gone and only remains as a historical curiosity, notwithstanding its valid legal status as a part of the Sharia. The Prophet predicted that the first aspect of the faith to be removed from the world would be governance, and once removed, he stated that it would remain so until the return of Jesus, who would personally remove the tribute payment from Sharia.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's what the Sunnis think. In the Sunni world, they have a hadith saying that Jesus is gonna come back, right? Jesus is gonna come back. I think the Shias believe it too. The Shias believe it too. They're gonna come back with the Mahdi, and he's going to. They say that Jesus is supposed to break the crosses. He's supposed to abolish the, yeah. He's supposed to break the cross. He's supposed to abolish the jizya, break the crosses, and kill the swine. That's what he says. So that means he's gonna kill the swine that people are keeping to be slaughtered for human consumption. He's gonna get rid of the swine consumption. He's gonna break the crosses because the cross is tied to the worship of Jesus as an idol. That's like idolatry in the Islamic faith, and also to abolish jizya. When they mean abolish jizya, that means but it's usually interpreted as that there's gonna be no more religion allowed except for Islam. So it depends how you interpret it. So he I want to see how he gets into how he gets into that and how the Dima is historical curiosity. It's not historical yet. It's not really going to be historical until Yom Kippur because the jizya is suspendable, but it's not abolishable until Yom Kippur. So this is how they think it's from before. But yeah, but it could be before. But the Sunnis and Shias think that it could be before with Jesus and the Mahdi because like, it's the common school. We don't believe in the second coming. We believe Jesus already died and we don't believe in the Mahdi. Like, we believe everybody's gonna get resurrected. Everybody who live, every man Adam who lives is gonna get resurrected on Yom Kippur. But but yeah. So let's so yeah, it's interesting how he said, interesting how he tries to do that. But once you move, yeah, into okay, or you move the payment from the, so yeah, so that's how yeah, so because Jesus is supposed to move for them. All right, let's keep going.
Okay. What matters today is that we build upon the positive precedents established by our tradition of tolerant jurisprudence and encourage Muslims to consider Buddhists as being akin to people of the book. This is one of the main aims of the present initiative to seek common ground between Islam and Buddhism. There is an Islamic legal precedent for this in the Hadith of the Prophet, in which we are told to treat the Magians as if they were people of the book, with the exception of marrying their women and eating their meat.
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah, 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 yeah. Because
interesting.
that's true. Because the Magians were treated, was given demon, even though they will not consider people of the book. So a lot of people think demon and people of the book is synonymous, but it's not. See, you could be demon and not be people of the book, and you could be allowed jizya without being people of the book. But the people of the book have extra rights in terms of marrying their women, dating their meat. If, if the only if the only killing in God's name, like for example, if it's a Trinitarian Christian and it kills in the name of Father, Son, Holy Ghost, that's not halal. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
Yeah, it has to be the God of Abraham. Yes, if they're from the field of the book and they kill it with the kill it praising the God of Abraham, yes, then it's permissible. But Muslim eat it and it's halal, and we can marry the women. We can marry the but our women can't marry their men.
right, right.
Yeah,
Okay. Um, Today we live together in an increasingly interdependent world. The challenges facing us as a species behoove us to focus on our commonalities and shared values. We're confronted with global crises of all types: environmental, economic, social, religious, and military, not to mention the tremendous natural disasters that are afflicting us on an increasingly frequent basis. Never before has human cooperation been needed so desperately, and never before has it been so imperative that we set aside our differences. Buddhism and Islam share profound precepts of charity, patience, forbearance, and a recognition that everything in the world is imbued with the sacred. We may speak of the sacred in different ways using different words, but its essence is one. Buddhism teaches kindness, and Islam's essence is mercy, which is another word for kindness. We often forget that kindness is engendered by a shared sense of kind. He is my kind of man, we say, while commonalities are accentuated and kindness is highlighted. We tend to treat others as our own kind, as related as our kin, a word that shares the same root with Gain, which means womb, and is called Rahim in Arabic, which relates to the word Rahmah, meaning mercy. The Quran affirms all kinds of the Quran affirms all of humanity as being of one family, Banu Adam, humankind.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The Banu Adam is mankind. We're all children of Adam, and the Muslims will be the friends of God within the children of Adam. Yeah, keep
Mm.
going.
When our common humanity and our kindred nature are brought to the forefront, kindness becomes not only possible but natural. Our earliest ancestors had valid reasons to fear strangers, but they also developed many traditions of honoring the familiar guest as well as the stranger. In the modern world, there's much to cause fear as well, but we must foster empathy and cultivate and enhance our own ways of honoring the familiar guest and the stranger. While much evidence abounds to cause trepidation about succeeding at that task, I would argue that far more exists to inspire hope. For the first time in humanity, we have media at our fingertips, enabling us to leap over vast stretches of land and sea instantaneously and communicate with people from across the globe. From the comfort of our living rooms, we have the ability to see and understand how people of a different culture, ethnicity, or religion live their lives, and we are able to marvel at the richness and biodiversity of our planet. We delight in the diversity we find in nature. We're awed by the myriad varieties of flora and fauna. We express our love with bouquets of varied and colorful flowers. Even the most curious stranger from distant lands are increasingly part of our collective consciousness. Yet fear too often wells up when we are confronted with people who do not seem like us. We fall back on xenophobia, which literally means a fear of the other. Oddly, it is often religion that causes divisiveness and dread when it ought to unite believers and inculcate them in the golden rule, which is a universal principle, thus at once sacred and secular, articulated by the Abrahamic prophets as well as the Asian sages from the Buddha to Confucius. Far too often, a distorted understanding of our faith traditions causes us to demonize the other as infidel or idolater, tyrant or terrorist, and as somehow less than human. While Buddhism seems to have less of this tendency than other faiths, it is not, and historically has not been, immune to these problems. Islam, which historically was more often than not a fount of tolerance in a xenophobic world, is now seen by some as being infected with intolerance. Sadly, some Buddhists are among those who have suffered at the hands of small numbers of misguided Muslims who attacked them in the temples of those they deemed to be not of our kind.
Okay. Yeah. Um. Um. Uh. Like. But you see, we no matter what, right? We have these terms, right? So, we sort of understand our faith cause us to demonize the other.
Mike,
I mean,
Mike, Mike.
it's good now.
Yeah, I will. It's just try again. Go on.
It's good. Yeah. Hear
Yep.
me?
Yep.
Anyway, yeah. Yeah. So it's like we have these terms. We're still gonna have to use these terms. All these terms are there because we use these terms. So, it doesn't mean we're not gonna have these terms, but we have to we have to just know how to we just have to know how to treat each other first as human beings. And then it says Buddhism is historically seen less. Yes, unfortunately, yes, Buddhism has been seen less in terrorism. But I want to emphasize that actually there is in actual Orthodox is the common Islam. We don't have a terrorist tradition at all. We have no terrorist tradition, right? So unfortunately, people unfortunately are seeing the higher amounts of terrorism that are reported in coming out of Islam, but what they're really seeing is Sunni and less and less, but still some Shia and Sufi terrorism, right? But that's not fundamentally part of Islam. But unfortunately, Islam is getting a bad rap. But I know Islam is getting a bad rap, but yeah, it's a reason, and Muslims have to be aware of this and have to own up to this, and have to make the proper ameliorations to be presentable in the world. You understand? We
Mm-hmm.
got to. So yes. So as for Buddhism, that they have that to a certain extent. The only issue I've seen people talk about Buddhists being necessarily aggressive was in Myanmar,
Right.
right?
Right.
That's yeah. So I mean that's one of the few cases, and there's a lot to that. A lot of ethnic is also a lot of ethnic issues to that. But then Buddhism is not always. I mean, in that situation, it could be questionable how well they incorporated different ethnicities. You know what I'm trying to say? Or how well they incorporated the stranger into their world. And I'm not blaming them because I'm not want to get into that issue by itself. But I'm trying to say, questions have been raised about that.
Yeah, of course, and
Yeah.
because that's what humans do, right? Humans do, regardless of what they call themselves or what they dress themselves, you could shave your head and put on robes and still be an ethno nationalist. You know what I'm saying? Like, just because you're a monk doesn't mean you're a perfect being. It doesn't mean that, monks are far from perfect beings. And like what you see in Myanmar is, uh, well, there's so much history behind it. Going back to, before World War II, um, the divide with Britain and them siding with Japan had a huge issue, like that kind of set things in motion. So there's
Yeah,
huge historical and cultural like differences, and in that part of the world, I noticed that even the Chinese now, they kind of oppress their minorities, right? Like they oppress the Uyghurs, they oppress pretty much anyone who's not Han, the Tibetans, um, and things like that. So like in the Eastern, like yeah, there is still a lot of that kind of feudal nationalism and group preference. That yeah, unfortunately we're not. Buddhists aren't free from it either. Um, just that the only thing is it's nowhere in our, like there's nothing in our they go against everything that Buddha ever taught by doing that, like you're not supposed to even see yourself as separate from other beings. And monastics, especially monks, have thousands of code, like ethical like precepts that they take when they ordain. And going out in the street and rioting and doing things like this is like directly against what they're supposed to be doing. And there's nothing in the text that would ever back up any. They couldn't even remotely like find a verse, and try to apply it to what they're doing. It's just not in there.
but yeah, yeah, but at the same time, if they still do it, all they can say is that even though it's not in there, does it prohibit us from doing this? And they can all they can say, and then they can keep doing it, right?
Yeah, no, of course it prohibits them from doing that. That's what I'm saying. Like, I can show you the Vinaya, like the Vinaya is the monastic code that that monks take to ordain. And like they're not, I'm telling you, like you can't be oppressed or even think that you're better than somebody else. Like you're supposed to be shedding these like your national, like you're not supposed to have attachments to your race, your national, like your background, your um like these are all harmful attachments that these guys are holding on to. They're ethno nationalists.
Yeah, the ethno nationalists. Yeah, yeah. I mean, because it's like, whew. It's okay. Hey, hold on for a second. Hey, shout out, Go. Shout out, Born Rich. Shout out, Dean Stevens. Shout out, all y'all. Anyway, shout out for coming out. Anyway, yeah, yeah, but it's almost like I mean, who? How many of the monks are really non-attached? Like, can you? I mean, can you really not be attached? Like one
No,
of the things.
that's what I'm saying. Like you're not, you don't like until you're like reach certain stages of enlightenment, you're not free from attachment. So all monks have attachments. You're all like you're not you don't relinquish them. Like it takes a lot, to become like there's stages. Like there's stages of enlightenment, four stages of enlightenment. And I can't remember the Pali words. Like one is like Sotapatthana, it's like a stream enterer. Then there's like non-returner. So like once you get to that point, like you're free from the aggregates, you're free from anything. Then there's like another one where you're like you don't generate any more karma. Like like you're done. Like so it's there's stages to that. And no, like not all monks have that at all. Like, should they be striving for it? Yes, like, of course. But, you know, people are people still. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand. I understand. I mean, yeah, yeah. People are the people what they are. So it's
Like,
like,
listen
no, no,
to
no.
this.
Okay, okay. Hey, I have another one.
Mhm.
ultimately Buddhist. Okay, I have another one. Okay, so you want to read the code? Because look, another issue is okay. I'm not an expert on Tibet, but I've always heard that before the communists take over Tibet, that Tibet was a feudal basically debt slave society, and they had the vast majority of the population in permanent debt slavery for generations upon generations upon generations. Have you heard that?
No, I have no idea.
Oh, oh. That's what I've always heard about Tibetan society pre-communist though. That it was a debt slave society.
Hmm. I don't know.
Yeah, we can even Google that. That's what I've always heard.
Okay.
You know, no, the only reason is right because that's the one. The only I'm just trying to tell you the criticisms of what they said about oppression. What I'm trying to say is that is that people say that the Buddhist rulership was complicit in the oppression of the own Tibetan people into death slavery.
Mm,
That's
I
what people say.
honestly like I really don't know. Like I've never heard. I guess I've never even looked into it before.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, the Tibetan history. Like, okay, I'm gonna put Tibetan.
okay, so it says the serfdom in Tibet controversy is a prolonged public disagreement over the extent and nature of serfdom in Tibet prior to the annexation of Tibet into the People's Republic of China in 1951. The debate is political in nature, with some arguing that the ultimate goal on the Chinese side is to legitimize Chinese control of the territory now known as the Tibet Autonomous Region or Xinjiang Autonomous Region, and others arguing that the ultimate goal on the Western side is to weaken or undermine the Chinese state. The argument is that Tibetan culture, government, and society were barbaric prior to the PRC takeover, and that this only changed due to the PRC policy in the region. The pro Tibetan independence movement on the
It's not being shared in the screen. You know that, right? You just want to
oh,
read it?
um, all right. I'm gonna have to. Yeah, I'm just gonna because I'm gonna have to go off. Hold on, let me try to. Sorry, I was on a different browser. Okay. Um, the pro Tibetan independence movement. Oh my God, cat! No, you just jumped right on my keyboard. Oh my God. Argument is that this is a misrepresentation of history created as a political tool in order to justify the Sinicization of Tibet.
Citizenization, yeah, just to make
Yeah.
something Chinese.
Chinese government claims commonly portray Tibet from 1912 to 1951 as a feudal society, and both the 13th and 14th Dalai Lamas as slave owners. What? These claims further highlight statements by the PRC that prior to 1959, 95% of Tibetans lived in feudal serfdom and cite
Yep,
cases
that's
of
what I've been
abuse
hearing. Yep.
cruelty, which are allegedly inherent to the traditional Tibetan system. Pro Tibetan independence forces in countries which are sympathetic to their cause, especially many Western countries, often scrutinize Chinese claims.
Yep, yep.
Um,
That's what I've always heard.
Competing versions of Tibetan history. I'm just trying to say academic debate, human. So, like, the mainstream, like what I do know is that like the mainstream Chinese view is that the Dalai Lama is a traitor. You know, wait, why are Hold on. Why did you hide Dean? Oh yeah. All right. Oh, he could type. All right. 1 second. I'm sorry. Hold on. All right. Sorry. So yeah. All right. So what I do know is that the Chinese mainstream, well, they say things like the Dalai Lama is a um traitor, like a traitor, and they think he's like, well, I guess technically he is a war, not a war. I don't know. He made a government in exile, so I don't know what that. But it's big.
If you make government exile, so he's a dissident,
Yeah, something like that. So
and they say that they probably say that he's treasonous.
right, exactly. All right, Tibet has undergone numerous political transformations from a unified empire 642 to 842, incorporating parts of what are now Nepal, India, Pakistan, several provinces of China, to a collection of independent, sometimes antagonistic kingdoms and polities,
And
uh,
polities,
polities uh, associated with various monasteries. What's a polity?
a polity, a state, like
Oh,
a political entity,
okay.
like a
To
body politic.
Okay, to protect it under the power of an expanding Mongol Empire, back to a collection of independent and sometimes antagonistic kingdoms and polities associated with it. Why does it say it twice? To a centralized state under the clerical administration of the Dalai Lamas, to a protectorate of the Manchukuo dynasty, and finally to a nation having de facto independence under a clerical administration. Oh, so that's just like the. Although central leadership in Lhasa has authority on these areas for various periods, some Western writers claim that this did not imply the kind of political control seen in modern Western states. According to Luciano Petech, Khams um, was practically independent of Lhasa under its great lamas in the 18th century. Furthermore, the areas of Qinghai with large Tibetan populations were not continuously ruled by Lhasa, including the period leading up to the establishment of the PRC, when the Kuomintang Muslim warlord Ma Bufang ruled Qinghai with the Republic of China.
Yep, the Kuomintang. Okay, the Kuomintang was the government before the CCP, right? The Kuomintang took over after the fall of the last um king, like King King dynasty rule. After
Mm,
that, and it was headed by Sun Yat Sun, right? And they were the government, the official government of China, but then they were opposed by the CCP. CCP had an army, and then World War II happened. They both had to come together to fight Japan. After the war, CCP was
this
able
is
to eventually.
messed up, man.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, okay. The CCP. Hold on for a brief second. Okay, hello.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but yeah. So the CCP, right? The CCP eventually overcame the Kuomintang and forced them to Taiwan. So the Cuban, that's why Taiwan and China. have this issue to today because technically Taiwan is still part of China. They haven't officially ever declared independence because they think they're the official government in exile of China, and that's why Taiwan is officially called the Republic of China, the way the mainland China used to be called before it was taken over by the PDP
Do
and
you
it was.
have headphones or something that you can use, or like plug-in head
Hold
or
on,
Bluetooth head something like?
hold on. Let me look for something. Hold on.
Okay, so it says discussing the social structure of Tibet inevitably leads to difficulties with defining terms. Not only may serf and feudalism be Western terms inappropriate for Asian use, but geography and peoples of Tibet vary according to interpreter. The lack of agreement of the various sides as to terminology highlights that the serfdom in Tibet controversy is a politicized debate, with the term feudal serfdom largely being used by the PRC as a justification for their taking control. According to the PRC, there was a historically imperative need for the progress of Tibetan society and the welfare of the Tibetan people to expel the imperialists and shake off the yoke of feudal serfdom. The founding of the PRC in 49 brought hope for the deeply distressed Tibetan people in conforming to the law of historical development and interest of the Tibetan people. The the Central People's Government worked actively to bring about Tibet's peaceful liberation. After that, important policies and measures were adopted for Tibet's democratic reform, regional autonomy, large scale modernization, reform, and opening up. However, the Tibetan government in exile responds the Chinese justifications make no sense. First of all, international law does not accept justifications of this type. No country is allowed to invade, occupy, annex, and colonize another country just because its social structure does not please it. Secondly, the PRC is responsible for bringing more suffering in the name of liberation. Thirdly, necessary reforms were initiated, and the Tibetans are quite capable of doing so. So I don't know what to believe here because a lot of it might be, it sounds like a political debate. But when
Yeah.
I hear things like this, I just can't help but think of like people always complain about colonization, right? Like, oh, we think these countries are barbaric, so let's go over there and liberate them. You know what I'm saying? That's what this kind of sounds like to me. And it's
Yeah.
like at the end of the day, do we, like, if they were doing serfdom, right? I'm sure that they would have not have tried to fight off the the the, the Chinese invasion. You know what I'm saying? Like you would have let, well, they didn't have the numbers and or the weaponry to even compete with them. You know, so they got ran through quick. You know, they got ran over and taken over quick. But the thing is like
Well, how
there's
come they haven't? See, what they're trying to say is that if their society was so backwards, that's why they didn't develop the technologies to defend themselves against China or develop the right relationships to secure their independence because they were so backwards because it's still a feudal system.
right, but I mean, we can say the same thing about Afghanistan.
And that's what they
That's
did.
exactly what we said about, and look at, you know what I'm saying? Like that's exactly, they didn't want the technology. They had their, deep cultural traditions, and the Chinese go in there bulldozing monasteries, making them take down the Buddhist flag. They weren't going to let them uh the lamas rule like they had traditionally done for centuries. Um, and yeah, so I mean, I understand, like, yeah, of course, serfdom and feudalism isn't progressive at all. Um, and I hope that people weren't getting like oppressed. And I'm really gonna like start looking into this, but I can't help to think that this is another like instead of a Western kind of imperialist colonization, it's a Eastern one. You
No,
know,
it's
look.
definitely a Chinese colonization and replacement and displacement. It's definitely Chinese displacement,
Mm,
and but they're citing reasons why they did it. But you should also look at it in the other way that the why were the Tibetans so vulnerable? And you have to look at what structure they had that stopped them from being able to secure their sovereignty.
I don't think they were like warrior people. They're farmers. They live out there on a they're mountain folk. Like they're little
But why
mountain.
can't they? But why did they develop the copper militancy? I mean, what kept that lifestyle going? Was that lifestyle kept going by a feudal system that kind of forced it that way?
I have no idea. I don't know.
That's the point they're making, and they're saying the people were stuck in debt slavery. That's why they had those simple mountain farm lifestyle and couldn't get away from that. They couldn't develop anything else because they were debt slaves, serfs, and basically enslaved. That's what the claim is.
Yeah, I get that, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that's trustworthy. Like, I don't know if that's true.
Well, it could be Chinese propaganda, according to Dean Stevens. He said it could be Chinese. She said Chinese propaganda. Shout out Mark Smith. Yep, yep, yep. I mean, propaganda, propaganda. A lot of people saying it's propaganda. A lot of people saying propaganda, and or just Dean, basically, but still. But yeah, it could be propaganda. It could be imperialistic propaganda. But see, even communism has imperialism. See, even the Soviets had their imperialism. So was China. So
Mm,
Chinese imperialism is taking over Xinjiang and Tibet and doing the displacement they're doing. I mean, if they want to really incorporate them, they wouldn't displace them the way they're doing right now. You can hear me good, right?
mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they wouldn't do that, and I don't like this, but it's one of the things that there's there. I mean, it's one of the things that is that could it be true that the debt slavery was going on? How do we know that debt slavery wasn't going on? Were people not in debt? Like so that it was totally fabricated. Like it was totally fabricated.
I don't know. Like, I don't know how to answer that. Like, I don't know enough about this. I'm trying to look it up quickly, but this is something I would have to like really, really look into, and maybe
Okay. Yeah.
like I can.
Now, we could go more into it in the follow up. I just brought it up as one thing, as one example people use of oppression, attributed or in compliance with, with Buddhism and the accompanying structures. This accompanying structures being the theocratic state led by the Dalai Lama, who had a system of supposed generational debt slavery that was, for most intents and purposes, crippling to the vast majority of his people over generations and generations, and represent high barriers to mobility and achievement. That's the accusation made, and because the issue in the reading, the issue in the reading was accusations against religions, and how Islam and how Buddhism was very less. So I just brought up the ones that I know of accusations of brutality and oppression and things attributed to to Buddhists claiming. operants.
Hmm. Trying to just read this one. Slave equals serf because there's always blurry lines between sharecroppers, serfs, and slaves, especially when laws were written and executed poorly. You can't call a factory worker in a sweatshop a slave even though he or she is legally a free person. Tibet was ruled by an autocratic Kashag government at that time, and the Kashag government even coexists with Chinese troops stationed in Lhasa for some time in the 1950s. The coexistence ended in 59 Tibet Uprising when forces loyal to the Dalai Lama revolted against PLA and were defeated. Only then Tibet was administratively fully incorporated into the PRC. The Kashag government's autonomy in the 50s was comparable to today's, such as Hong Kong and Macau. Theocratic nobles such as the Dalai Lama and many other monks who are administrators of the temples did not work menial jobs. They provided functions similar to bishops in the Catholic world. They collected taxes and sometimes levied duties on the people in their pariah. Services included serving for the monks. Suddenly, it became much less accuse, uh, accuse, accusative about whether the Dalai Lama owned slaves or not, because the parallel is drawn and it is not very Tibet specific. It happened everywhere. Second, even if owning slaves and enslavement was illegal or immoral, the Dalai Lama was a minor when PLA took over in Tibet in 51. So he cannot be held responsible for things before, as he was too young, and after that, PRC carried joint responsibility with the Chinese and Kashag government. Okay, so see, this is a different, like, so the accusation on the Dalai Lama owning slaves, therefore, his preaching would be hypocritical and invalid and often backfires, much to the Chinese government's dismay. I have similar accusation against many other famous people, including Mahatma Gandhi, Mother Teresa, Nelson Mandela, and Martin Luther King. So this guy's, I don't know. It's just there's
And it's two
different.
issues.
But
Is one issue about him? Can you hear me?
mm-hmm,
It's two issues. One issue about the I'm owning slaves. That's not even my issue, but I hear that now, right? But the bigger issue is, was Tibet a debt slave serfdom society stuck in an oppressive feudal structure, stopping the mobility of the people to develop to develop the necessary capabilities to keep the sovereignty of the Tibetan nation state.
hmm. He had everything provided for him by rich landlords. It was a feudal society. The rich landlords owned land that the peasants lived on. The difference between the peasants and the definition of a slave is that the Tibetan peasant was not owned by anyone, was not considered property, was free to come and go and choose his or her own life. But they did have to pay for living on the land, and a portion of their crops or produce or yaks they raise or barley they grow. An option for improving their station and their family station in life was to send a child to train as a monk, get an education similar to going to the college. These peasants were not slaves, but simple nomads and farmers who lived the same way their ancestors always lived.
Okay, but they'll say that they're stuck in their way. I mean, that they're trying to say that okay, so but did the system keep them in an old way that they needed to advance? Like, was it did it stop innovation?
I don't know why they would. Like, why would they deliberately? And it
So
didn't seem.
the landlords can keep their income. The landlords can keep their power. There's a
And
many
it
reasons.
seemed like it was really much under the Dalai Lama's rule after he was 16. It was in the rule of this other government.
I
Um,
know that's not the issue, but yeah, I hear what you're saying, right? There's many things leading up to it, but that's not the issue behind the controversy of whether it was a serfdom society. Because it probably was a serfdom society way before the Chinese took it over, right? If the claims are true, it's not something that just comes up when the Chinese take it over. That the when Chinese take it over, it comes is the beginning of the fall of Tibet as any type of nation state in and of itself, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, it could revive, and I don't know if it could be a nation within the Chinese People's Republic. I don't know because it's going to be hard for China to ever really give up sovereignty over Tibet because of the resources there and the rivers and the water rights. You know, especially have a lot of the mainstream waters start off in Tibetan Plateau. You know that, right? A lot of the main rivers that go down Southeast Asia. They they
mm,
they they start in the Tibetan Plateau, right? So it's too strategic for them to give it up. I don't know if they'll give Tibet the autonomy it needs to reheal itself, but it's like one of the things like is like that's what they're talking about is the progression of how it got to now. But I'm also want to know about the state it was before this last era of getting into Chinese CCP rule because even before that there was Kuomintang. So, but anyway, let's finish reading this part. Okay, what's the rest of this part?
yeah, yeah. All right. Okay, yeah, if we look around the world today, there is much that we find heartening. Muslims live as minorities in Buddhist countries such as Thailand and Tibet and share neighborhoods in California with Buddhists. The Prophet said, gentleness is never in a thing except that it embellishes it and is never removed from something except that it blemishes it. Nothing in the Prophet's teaching allows mistreatment of others based upon their beliefs. Islam itself began under intense religious persecution, and the Prophet was deeply sensitive to this fact and left teachings to ensure that Muslims did not fall victim to the very behaviors that victimized them. While Buddhists also have their own history of violence, today they are some of the gentlest and most peaceful people on earth.
Okay, so
Talking
uh,
about,
he's talking about his study in Japan, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So what do you know about that?
So I know that when Buddhism moved to Japan, it incorporated a lot of their culture, and in the state that Japan was also a feudal country for generations under different emperors, like the Tokugawa, um, and the ones I can't remember, the ones before them, like before the West went and liberated them from their poor little feudal lives and changed the course of Japan forever. Um, that, yeah, Buddhism did. They adopted to their culture. So, yeah, there were warrior monks, but a lot of them were not ordained monks. Like, they were um, they were called monks, but they didn't take all of the they didn't take all of the precepts in the Vinaya, but they were loyal to the monasteries that were in their towns, like where they lived in, and they trained to protect them. Um, so I know that things like in the some of the schools of like martial arts that these like monks train under, a lot of their training is non-lethal. So like they're very like how you call it, like skilled at like putting people down without killing them, basically. Um, but again, I'm not real like familiar on historical stuff, I guess, which I probably should be. Um, but that's, it adapted to their part of the world, just like it adapted to, Myanmar's part of the world, and China. And like if you look at like Buddhism in India and Buddhism in Japan, like you would think it's two different things. Um, so yeah, there was like, the somebody had to protect the monasteries, and the people that were loyal to them, they trained, and yeah, and they fought for them. So
Okay,
that's
that's very
I don't
interesting.
know a lot about it, but again, like
No, that's
there's
interesting.
nothing in the teaching that teaches people to that will teach monks to fight. It will say you're allowed to defend yourself as mindfully as you can, without killing people if possible. But if you do kill someone, you still have to face the karma for that, even in self defense. So you don't get away with it. Like, if you're a warrior, monk, or whatever, and you kill someone, you're still going to be held accountable for that.
Yeah, but it was a it's just something that Buddhism, because it's like Buddhism adapts to reality, and that's what I want to tell you, and that's what we were talking about last time. Um, Buddhism adapts to reality, and that's why people find things problematic even in Islam. And I tell people this, right? If your religion is a credible reflection of reality, it should have philosophical implications on all aspects of your life. And if we know about life, we have the good, bad, and the ugly, right? In life, we
Uh,
have the good, bad, and the ugly. So your religious tradition is going to have to deal with the good, bad, and the ugly, and it's going to have it there. That's why a lot of things seem problematic to me in the Quran and the Sunnah, but a lot of things is dealing with the good, bad, and ugly of the world. You know what I'm saying?
mm, mm-hmm,
And I think even Buddhism, it has adapted when you just said when you go, but it went to Japan, it adapted to the good, bad, and ugly of what is going on in Japan at the time, right? Because they had to deal with the real world situations. Religion have to actually deal with real world situations, either at their foundation or along their development and cultivation and spread.
mm-hmm.
You understand?
Yeah, yep.
You know.
All right. Where was I? Okay. Their leaders often preach kindness and compassion throughout the world. The Dalai Lama has publicly defended Muslims and their faith at the Vatican and in other prominent venues, despite having been mistreated in his youth by some ignorant Tibetan Muslims. Is It is time we recognize that many of the gravest and most vexing conflicts today are fueled by religious rhetoric that cloaks deeper causes, mostly greed, covetous, and aggression, which are rooted in selfish and territorial interests. But it is true religion that can treat and remedy those very human ailments. Religion gets conscripted into such degrading battles by demagogues and that in turn tragically alienates an increasingly large number of considerate and concerned people who begin to see religion as part of the problem. Until we address the very real calamities confronting our collective humanity with all the tools available to us, especially religion, and genuine concern for humanity and the myriad species that we share this marvelous world with, we are failing our face. Oh, just throw them on the floor there. Good night. Love you. It is undeniable that we come from different faiths and families, but we also recognize that we are quintessentially of the larger human family. It is our common humanity that binds us to one another and calls us to recognize all the people as our kind. We have dignified all of humankind, states Quran 1770, while Buddhism reminds us that human suffering is caused by craving and selfish desire that must be countered by recognizing the impermanence of life and by inculcating compassion toward all sentient beings for the brief time we are here. Until we acknowledge our human nature, both the best bestial and celestial sides, we're doomed to fail. My own teacher, Sheikh Abdullah bin Baya, once explained to me the dignity of humanity precedes the dignity of faith and is subordinate to it. In other
Okay.
words,
Hey, speaking of Doom and Bay, I seen Sheikh Hamza, the guy who's writing this who's epilogue. I seen him with Sheikh Abdullah bin Bai before in D.C. when he came over to D.C. and at Masjid Muhammad in Fourth and P Street, Washington D.C. That's my masjid, Masjid Muhammad, Fourth and P. And I seen Hamza Youssef and Sheikh Abdullah bin Bay was there one time. They gave a kuba. I was there.
oh, that's cool.
So yeah, so I met these people right now. I actually met them. I actually met them. I mean, I just said hi to them. That's it. Because a lot of people, everybody wanted to say hi to them, so all I did was say hi. That's it.
Hmm.
So because everybody said, hmm? What happened?
Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
In other words, a human is inviolable by virtue of his or her humanity, even before inviolability of shared faith. The Prophet Muhammad stated, "None of you truly believes until he loves for his fellow man what he loves for himself." The great Imams of Islam have argued that this mutual love and respect extends even to those who reject Islam, but can only be achieved by opposing one's selfish desires. Similarly, the Bodhisattva is devoted to the cause of releasing of all of humanity from the chains of false desire.
Yeah. Hello. Hello.
I'm sorry, 1 second. Okay.
Oh no. Okay. I was gonna say um. Well, what was that? We doing? Okay. Not. It's good. I mean, we should love all people, but then we should hate. But we should hate like people. or hate the bad things people do, and yeah, so yeah, but in Nigeria, yeah, we're supposed to have that's the impetus of Dawa, because because Dawa itself is for all humanity. You understand? So yeah, so that's the root of Dawa. Yeah, so I mean, you were supposed
Now,
to
I
have that.
heard that this statement right here only applies to Muslims. None of you truly believe. There was a whole debate about this one statement because somebody said that there was a guy who said he's my brother in humanity, and he used this verse to back it up. And then another guy said no, that this verse only applies to his fellow man, means Muslims. Like it doesn't extend to outside of Muslims. What you think about that?
I've never known it to only extend to Muslim. I've never known that. I've known it to be for all Bani Adam. That's the impetus of Dawa.
Okay.
You understand what I mean? Is the impetus of Dawa. That's why we have to give Dawa to everybody.
Mm, instead of colonization. All right. Monks trained in combat on self defense. Yeah. Okay. Similarly, the Bodhisattva is devoted to the cause of releasing all humanity from the chains of false desire. Islam and Buddhism share so many virtuous qualities and concerns for humankind that when Muslims or Buddhists are unkind to one another, it is no less than a failure of our leaders and teachers to help us understand our own traditions and our shared history. Increasing globalization demands that we affirm and accentuate the common bonds of universal kinship. If our faith cannot facilitate this, the most important of tasks, then the professors, spiritual leaders, and claimants of such traditions have betrayed them by failing to live up to the sublime standards set by their respective prophets and founders. Wow, I think that's a really good statement. Like, that's how I feel, you
Yep,
know?
yep.
That's exactly
And
how.
and
So,
and, and you're right. And you see, and I like how he came into it using a stronger hadith because he used the hadith about the you never truly love no none of you truly believes until he loves for his fellow man the way he loves for himself. So when he comes with the strong hadiths, that's when he does good because even when he cites the citation, it comes from Nawawi's 40 hadiths, and that's a strong, it's a small hadith collection, but it's really strong, right? It's all like very well, very heavily, often recited hadiths, right? Right. So but yeah, so it's good because in the end of the day, we're one humanity, reflecting the human condition. You know what I'm saying? In the end of the day,
mhm, yeah, all right. Um, in the best of times, Muslims have lived peacefully in many places with their Buddhist brethren. Buddhists lived under Muslim governance as protected people, and there is ample historical evidence to substantiate this. Their persons, properties, and temples were secure based on the Quranic injunction: God does not forbid you from being good to those who have not fought you. Excuse me. 60 verse 8. The Quranic worldview is a pluralistic one that acknowledges the rights of peoples to express their devotion in accordance with the dictates of their religion. It is clear that diversity is an expression of the divine itself, as the Quran states. Had God wanted, he would have made you all one people, but the intent is to test you, so vie with one another in performing good works. 5 verse
yeah, but
48.
yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, verse 5, verse 30, 48. Made a no, okay, but anyway, but it's not an expression of the divine itself. I mean, okay, divine itself is God, but it's how He created the world. So I don't like how He said it. Is it clear? It's clear diversity expression of the divine itself. No, it's almost that sounds kind of suspect.
So you can't act on behalf of the divine. You can't express your character and like conduct yourself like
No,
on
you definitely can, right? But he said it is
God's
clear that
behalf.
diversity is an expression of the divine itself.
Yeah, exactly. You're expressing yourself through the
No,
like
the divine. He said the divine itself. You know what the divine is?
yeah, it's an expression of it. Can you not express yourself of that?
Expression. I'm not an expression of the divine. I mean, all creation is expression of the divine, but is not the not the divine itself. Is an expression of the divine, but not an expression of the divine itself. No, the only expression of the divine itself is God Himself. His personhood is an expression of His essence. His personhood is an expression of His essence. We're not an expression of God's essence. No, God's essence only belongs to Him. We have two different natures. He's the infinite. We're the finite. We have two different genuses. He's uncreated. We're created.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, so the problem is itself then.
Yes. That's the problem. Yes, that's the problem. Yep. Itself. Yep. That's the problem. Yep.
Mhm. Okay. Um, the Prophet Muhammad said about protected religious minorities living under Muslim rule, whoever hurts a non Muslim citizen hurts me, and whoever hurts me has vexed God. The great Hanafi jurist Ibn Abedin argued that since Muslims are responsible for protecting the life and property of non Muslims, including the Buddhists, and since the persecution of the weak at the hands of the strong is among the greatest crimes in Islam, the persecution of non-Muslims, including the Buddhists, is an Islam in an Islamic state is considered a greater crime than the persecution of Muslims by non-Muslims.
I have no idea where he's getting, and you see where he's putting it. I mean, I don't know. Look at his sources. He's the first one. Source 40 for his saying that whoever hurts the non-Muslim citizen hurts me, nor hurts me has vexed God. I mean, um, he's shitting it there, but it's like, I mean, it's not. Don't get me wrong, it don't sound too bad, but I wish I had a strong source of where it wasn't more than this. I wish he had cited from um stronger, a more known source. But okay, it's not bad. But
Is that contradictory at all, though? Like, so in a Muslim land, if a Muslim oppresses a non Muslim, is it worse than a non Muslim
no,
oppressing a
that's
Muslim? It doesn't
41.
make
That's
sense.
two different. Okay, that's two different. Okay, because two citations, 40 and 41. Okay, okay. That's now 41. Yes, 41. I don't see why one would be more than the other. I don't see where he's getting the evidence to say that one would be more than the other. He's saying
Yeah.
again, if Abdul Rahman, Sharia Islamic law revising spell. I don't know who this guy is. I don't know who that guy is, but that's the source he's using. I don't really buy it. I don't really buy that you could say one is necessarily putting the other according to the source that he put. No, right? I mean, I don't know if that's an authentic source. And
Right.
then, eh?
It doesn't sound right either.
It
Like,
don't sound right. It don't sound right. Yep, it don't sound right. It don't sound right. And even the 40, the 40 don't sound too bad. I mean, like, cause if you vex the if you you're gonna vex the prophet, you hurt if you hurt the prophet, you're gonna vex God. I mean, if you hurt any of God's friends, you're gonna vex God. I mean, yeah. I mean, yeah. But yeah, but the 41, yeah, it sounds suspect.
okay.
Right.
Despite
Okay.
the Islamic jurists' recognition of Buddhism as being classified among the protected religions, some Muslims have difficulty accepting Buddhists and those of other Asian traditions as possibly being considered among the Sabians mentioned in the Quran, and other Muslims simply consider the Buddhists idolatrous given their veneration of the images of the Buddha and its association with idolatry. For all such Muslims today, I would like to narrate a story from the Islamic tradition once related by the sages of Islam to teach how to treat others no matter what their beliefs are. Imam Sidi al Mukhtar al Kunti al Shingiri relates in his book Fath al Wadud the following. It is related that an idolater once sought refuge with Abraham and asked for nourishment. Upon seeing an idolater, Abraham refused him and sent him off. Angel Gabriel appeared and said to Abraham, I bring greeting of peace from your Lord, who asks you, why did you turn away my servant? Abraham said, because he is an idolater. God asks you, did you create him or did I? Abraham says, of course you created him. And God said, was his disbelief was his disbelief in me or in you? Abraham said his disbelief was in you. And God said, were you providing for him all these years or was I? Abraham said, you're my provider as well as his. God said, did he create that disbelief in his heart or did you create it and nurture it in him? Abraham says, no, you did. God asked you whether his disbelief harmed him or you. Abraham said, no, it harmed him. God said, if that's the case, then why did you deprive my servant and your brother? For he is in one of two possible conditions: fuel for the fire and the object of my wrath, or I can forgive him and make him among my beloveds and grant him peace in the abode of my mercy. At this point, Abraham went out in search of the man and found he was now fearful of him. He showed the man kindness and cajoled him back into returning to his tent to feed him. The man said, something happened as you're acting so differently towards me. Initially, you refused me, and now you're showing me kindness as if you want something from me. Abraham said to him, my Lord reproached me for the way I treated you. To this the man said, what a blessed Lord you have that he should reproach his beloved due to his bad behavior towards his enemy. Then he submitted to the God of Abraham and worshiped with him until he died. This
Okay.
story,
Okay. Go. Read. That's a good. It's a good story. I mean, it's a good story.
this story, not necessarily its ending, illustrates the essential aim of both the Common Word Initiative and the present Common Ground Project, inviting into our tent the stranger who may not look, worship, or be like us in many ways, because he or she is a creation of God, here for a purpose, and someone to be honored as a fellow guest of God. We are committed to setting an example and embodying in our attitudes, declarations, and behaviors the very change we wish to see manifest in the world. The challenge before us is to understand our teachings better, from within and without, so we can engender a true celebration of humankind's diversity. For indeed, too many of us seem to have just enough faith to foment hatred, oppression, and fear among people, but not nearly enough to nurture kindness, compassion, and mercy. Wow, that's it,
Okay.
bro. That's just biographies. You wanna? I don't. We don't need to do biographies, do we? Or
No, it's not long though. They're not long. We might as well finish it. We did.
all right,
We went far. Okay. Well, look. Okay. Look. It's not that long. It's biographies.
all right,
It's
cool.
only 2 pages.
All right. So biographies of the contributors. Dr. Reza Shah Kazemi is the author of works in the field of Islamic studies and comparative religion, including My Mercy Encompasses All, the Quran's teachings on compassion, peace, and love, path to transcendence according to Shankara, Ibn Arabi, and Mekter Eckhart. Justice and Remembrance, introducing the spirituality of Imam Ali. The other, in light of the one, universality of the Quran and interfaith dialogue. He is currently managing editor of Encyclopedia Islamica at the Institute of Ismaili Studies in London, a fellow
Yep.
of the Royal Al-Bayya Institute of Islamic Thought in Amman, and serves on the advisory boards of several journals in the field of comparative religion.
Okay, so he's the author. So he's the
Mhm.
author, the main author, the main body, right? I think he's one of the authors or the prince. Okay. Anyway, yeah. So he's the author. He's the main author of the work. And thank him a lot. I know we were real critical of his work, but I'm glad for the effort. Again, Doctor Reza Sheikh Kazemi, thank you for putting out this work, sir, and giving us a project to do. Um, um, I learned so much about the Buddhist religion
Mhm.
and Dharmic religion in general by doing this. So it was a great work. It was a great bridge to a world that I knew very little about and know a lot more about now in a short period of time, and I've had a lot of exposure to where now I could look at it in a more understanding light, just because I know the doctrines. So these type of things are good bridge builders. So thank you for making this work, sir. Yeah, so that's again shout out to Dr. Reza Shah Kazemi.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. Okay, so His Royal Highness Prince Ghazi bin Mohammed bin Talal is the first cousin of uh, His Majesty King Abdullah II of Jordan and the nephew of the late His Majesty King Hussein. He attended Harrow School in UK, received a bachelor or BA, I don't, summa cum laude from Princeton.
Is it a bachelor's of art? A bachelor's of art.
Okay, isn't that a like
A
what is that?
degree.
Okay, okay.
A
Uh
degree. Summa cum laude is a special honor for having good grades.
okay. Um Received his first PhD from Cambridge in 93 and a second from Al Azhar in Cairo in 2010. He has held numerous high posts in Jordan and is currently personal envoy, special advisor to His Majesty King Abdullah. He had founded the national park for the site of the baptism of Jesus in 96, Al Belqa University in Jordan, 96, Al Tasfir.com, the largest online Quranic resource in 2001, and the World Islamic Sciences and Education University in '07. He's also part-time professor of philosophy at Jordan University and holds a number of high decorations and awards and has published a number of books and was the author of the historic Common Word, Open Letter, and Peace Initiative of '07. Thank you, His Royal Highness or Holiness.
No highness, His Royal Highness. He's a prince,
Okay.
no Royal Holiness. And I'm gonna go back to the first guy again. Dr. Reza Sheikh Kazemi. I forgot to mention that he's also an Ishmaeli. Well, I mean I don't know if he's Ishmaeli, but I mean Jenny informs me that he's an Ishmaeli and he works for the Islamica is like he's currently the managing director of the Encyclopedia Islamica at the Institute of Ishmaeli Studies. And I just want to talk about Ishmaelism. It's good that he did this. Like for example, Ishmael is known for doing a lot of interfaith studying and things like that. They've also done it in more philosophical works. especially like, and it's even deep in the history, like in the like you could research the Ikhwan al Safa, right? The Brethren of Purity, and their works and their epistles. They did a lot of phenomenal encyclopedic works. So Ismailis have always done good encyclopedic works in the Islamic world, right? In the Islamic world, they've always done good encyclopedic work. So I just want to I just want to highlight that heritage, and goes back to the issue of Akitas, that there's different Akitas in Islam. Like even Ishmaelism is within the Shia sphere, but even in the Shia sphere and the Shia world, there are different. There are three main different sets of Akida: the fivers, seveners, and twelvers. The the um the the Ishmaelis claim to be seveners. They're in the sevener camp. They're in the sevener camp, and the bigger group of Shias, the Ithna Ashari, are the twelver camp. And there's also a smaller camp of Shias called the fivers, who are in who are mainly in Yemen, in some of the Zaydis, right? And then you also have other spin-offs of Shiism. Some might not even be considered Shiism no more. Like you have the Alawis and Alavis, and even the Druze who came out of it, kind of. I mean, a lot of different other splinter groups too. But yeah, it's different Akitas and other stuff. But I mean, thanks again for the encyclopedic work, and this is a good this is a good intersect work, because you have somebody from the Ishmaeli world, and then he's working in Jordan with the Jordanian establishment, which is part of the Sunni world, but Jordan also um, claims to be defenders of the Christian sites as well. That's why you're talking about that's why the other author, the Prince, he was the one who founded the national park for the site of the baptism of Jesus Christ, because the royal family in Jordan claims to be the custodians of both the Islamic holy sites and the Christian holy sites for the Arabs. So this is an interesting thing. So this is a very like inter-Islamic work, you know what I'm saying, or interdenominational Islamic work. So I just want to highlight the interdenominational cooperation that happened to put this work together, and beyond the interdenominational connection, we have the interfaith connection with Islam and Buddhism. So everything is a lot of interconnections happening for the betterment of everybody's understanding in making this work. Thank you. That's it. Let's see if we can finish.
Okay. Professor Mohammed Hashim Kalami is founding chairman and CEO of the International Institute of Advanced Islamic Studies in Malaysia, '07 to present, and a world renowned scholar in Islamic jurisprudence. He served as professor of Islamic law and jurisprudence at an international Islamic university in Malaysia and was dean of the International Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization. Currently, he is senior fellow at Institute of Strategic and International Studies. Look at the abbreviation. Okay. Of Malaysia, senior fellow of the Academy of Sciences of Afghanistan, and also senior fellow of the Royal Academy of Jordan. He serves on the International Advisory Board of 13 academic journals published in Malaysia, US, Canada, Kuwait, India, Australia, and Pakistan. Professor Kamali has served as a member and sometime chairman of the Constitution Review Commission of Afghanistan in '03, and as a United Nations consultant on constitutional reforms in Afghanistan and the Maldives and Iraq, and currently advises the UN on a new constitution for Somalia. His book, Principles of Islamic Jurisprudence, Freedom of Expression and Islam, a textbook of Hadith studies and Shari law, and Introduction, are standard textbooks in English speaking universities worldwide.
So yeah, so we dealing with people who have a lot of who are just, I mean a lot there's a lot of backing. Eh?
A lot of academics.
A lot of academics, a lot of like a lot of real heavy people came into putting this together. I
Mhm.
mean, it was. I mean, I mean, but I don't know if it was. I'm gonna say that for later. I'm gonna see if how I would say overall. But a lot of good people came into making this book, and shout out Red, because that was a new person that came in the comments. Shout out Red. I ain't shot you.
Pick up, Brad. Pick up. Okay. Um, Sheikh Hamza Yusuf was born in Walla Walla, Washington. Walla Walla. Is that a place? Is there really a place called
Yeah,
Walla
it's called
Walla?
Walla Walla. Yeah, somebody's called
No,
Walla Walla. I heard of it before.
Walla
I've heard of
Walla.
it before. And I swear to God, I've heard of it before. I know. Heard of Walla Walla. Somebody's called Walla Walla.
No way. Oh my god, I gotta tell him that. I gotta tell Waleed that. Look at Waleed, there's a place in Washington call your name. Oh, that's hilarious. Um and adopted Islam at the age of 18. Subsequently, he migrated to the Middle East, where he spent more than 10 years studying Islamic sciences on the Arabian Peninsula in the North and West Africa. He returned to the U.S. and during the last 20 years has been teaching and writing in the U.S. He is the author of Purification of the Heart and has translated into modern English several classical Arabic texts and poems, including the Burda, the poem of the cloak, and the creed of Imam al Tahawi.
Tahawi. Imam, yeah. Hey, matter of fact, I have that book, The Creed of Imam Al Tawawi. Somebody gave it to me because I'm not a Sunni, but somebody tried to convince me to be Sunni. I kept saying I don't want to hold to Sunniism, and they said, "Please, brother, keep this book, take this book." I didn't want it, but I took it from him because you shoved it in my hand. But I don't know. See, I don't want to keep it. I mean, I've been had it for years, for this like ten years. But anyway, but I hate having it because it's so heretical. But I don't know if I should burn it or keep it or something. I just hate having it, but I don't want to burn it because somebody
Pass
gave it to
it
me as a
on
gift.
to someone. Just leave it, pass it. Just
I
don't.
know,
I
but I
don't.
don't want to give somebody trash. I don't want to give somebody trash. It's like giving somebody a bad thing. Why would I give
Oh,
somebody a curse? I don't want to give somebody a disease. Like giving somebody something I know that's toxic. Like it's gonna blow them up. Like giving somebody uranium. So
okay. Through his numerous lectures and media appearances, he's been active in ongoing public discourse about Islam nationally and internationally. He's currently involved in establishing Zaytuna College, the first accredited Muslim college in America. He resides in Northern California with his wife and 5 boys.
yeah, five
Yay!
boys. Man, oh, okay, dang, you got like five boys. That's great. That's a blessing.
Yay!
But yeah, no, but he's started Zaytuna already. The Zaytuna is already up.
Nice. Oh,
He's
that's
a Zaytuna
cool.
college. Yeah, they've been up. They've been up for a minute now.
Okay. Well, this is an old book, so
Yeah,
this
yeah, 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 yeah. It's an old book. Yeah. Okay, so that's it.
we did it. Like, thank you so much for doing our my first comparative religion discussion. Look at this is like oh what there's actually a city called Walla Walla. That is so funny. It's in southern Washington.
And there's a county called Walla Walla too. Even the county's called Walla Walla.
Uh, it's crazy.
Hey, there's a back though. There's more. There's more to the book. There's a back. Go to the blue. There's a blue. Go to the blue part. And keep going. Keep going past the blue. I'll figure go to the blue. Yep.
Okay. This is an important and pioneering book which seeks to find common ground between the teaching of Islam and Buddhism. It's my hope that on the basis of common ground, followers of each tradition may come to appreciate the spiritual truths of their different paths entail, and from this develop a basis for respect for each other's practice and beliefs. This may not have occurred very often before, but because there has been so little opportunity for real understanding between these two great traditions, this book attempts to set that right. From a Buddhist point of view, the practice of Islam is evidently a spiritual path of salvation. From
Uh
His
oh.
Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama.
Wow. That's a strong statement.
Why?
From
We
what?
don't claim to be the only path to salvation.
No, I'm not. I'm not. I didn't mean strong in a bad way. I mean strong in a good way. It's a
Yeah.
strong. It's a very affirmative statement
Hmm.
from the Dalai
I don't think
Lama.
I mean, the Buddha set his path, right? But like we like I don't think he claimed it to be like anyone who didn't follow that path couldn't reach salvation. You know, like he gave a path to lessen suffering on the way to salvation, you know? So his is I'm not sure he thought it was the only way to go, you know? But
No,
his was
interesting.
proven to, you know, make it easier along the way. Um, all right. Islam and Buddhism are two traditions which appear to be poles apart rather than sharing common ground. Islam is, by definition, submission to a revealed law, Muslims being those who submit to the transcendent will of God as revealed by the Quran. Buddhism is, by definition, awakening, becoming enlightened through realizing the immanent Buddha nature and uniting with the reality of Dharma. These two religions are perhaps the fastest growing in the world, yet they seem worlds apart. With compelling evidence drawing upon a dazzling interplay of scriptural and spiritual authorities from both traditions, Dr. Shah Kazemi leads the reader on a pilgrimage to the respective hearts of those great revelations. Along the way, while acknowledging their formal differences, he demonstrates that by holding discourse with them in the finest manner, Quran 16:125, stunningly beautiful vistas open up through a vision of the spiritual wisdom shared in common by the two traditions. The fruit of this endeavor is an original and unifying understanding, transcending formal differences and evoking the essential nature of the Absolute. This groundbreaking work reveals the depth of the common ground of these outwardly diverse traditions by careful analysis of broad range of revealed and inspired sources. The author shows how Buddhists can be considered by Muslims to be like the people of the book mentioned in the Quran, and how Islam can be seen by Buddhists as a path leading to enlightenment.
There we go. That's what we did. Did you think that this book accomplished those goals?
Well, I think reading this book with you, like you said, I think it taught you a lot about, you know, the Dharma, Buddhism in general, maybe things that you didn't know. And it taught me that there is a more kind of mystical, less, you could say, textual side to Islam. You know, like there's a deeper side to it. Like there's a spiritual side to it. Like there's a mystical side to it. You know what I'm saying? Um,
Yeah.
so it did like open my eyes to that a lot. So I mean, and it did show me, it taught me that, you know, in the past in certain caliphates, like we were considered people of the book, and that we weren't always thought of as, you know, just mushriks or idolaters or
No,
whatever.
no, I don't know about people in the book, but as Demi though, that's the thing. I don't think we do we ever prove that there was people in the book. We don't know that Demi. He
uh,
tried to make that case, and nobody disputes that. You know,
but didn't it say that some caliphates thought of them as al-kitab in the first
they might have said that,
beginning?
but I think it would have been an error if they did. And I'm trying to remember where exactly he said and how he tried to defend it. I'm trying to remember how did he try to defend that point. While you look for that, I'm gonna go. Yeah, because they never said people the book. I know the Dimi, but why you find that Born said, have I been to Mecca? No, I've not been to Mecca. I've not been to Mecca. And does Islam have a history of discriminating against black people? I'm gonna say heresy does. Islam doesn't. Heresy does. Islam doesn't. Because Islam, we say that. Even a black man with his nose cut off could be the caliph for the Muslims, could be the imam of the Muslims if he was the best qualified. That's the views of Allah Wali Sakama. That's the proper view of Islam. Um, let's see.
Oh, it was on that paper. Hold on, let me. I could take this off the share screen now. It was in that paper. Big up. I'm glad you learned a lot. Big up, Red. Thanks for passing through. What is James talking crap? I'm gonna put the link out. See if anybody wants to jump on. Candy Mang? What you talking about, Candy Mang? Yeah, what he talking about, Mang? You mocking my? Why you mocking our accent, Mang? All right, let me see. It was in that paper, that one paper that where is it? Right here. Did I ever read through this whole thing or no? It's I think it's a how many pages?
Did
Quick
we
read.
read through that? I don't remember that part.
It was that paper that this is kind of long. This was what I wanted to come to. Like there were it says in the century, right? And then different scholars and their views of Buddha as a prophet. Um
Mm.
I think in here it said it up at the beginning. All right, so the coexistence of Islam and Buddhism relation took place in the middle of the 8th century. Although both religions originated from different sources, Muslim scholars were the first to study about Buddhism. And I don't know about that. Inspired by selected verses in the Quran, because I would think that like Hindu scholars would have studied them first, and
Yeah,
anybody.
and even Christian scholars back
Oh,
then, they had
yeah,
Eastern churches their church like Nestorians, like the Nestorian Christianity was over there. You know what I'm trying to say?
exactly.
Nestorians.
Like, there's a
So
lot of
it's
there was
like, yeah, Hindus would have studied them, and Nestorians would have studied them, Taoists would have studied them.
right, right. It's something that I noticed that people do a lot. Like, oh, we were the first to do this, or we were the first to that. But I guess all cultures and kind of things try like to claim the first of everything. But inspired by selected verses in the Quran, Muslim scholars recognized an element of similarity of the Buddha's teaching with Islamic teaching. This paper examines the views of Muslim scholars on the Buddha's position in the Islamic tradition in early and contemporary literature. The method of this study is qualitative by emphasizing on contained analysis using three research design: philological, philolog, why do I have such a hard time saying this? Philological.
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 Wow.
What does that mean?
I think it means good word. It's just a okay. Search for definition. I know
Yeah.
philo means
Branch,
liking. It
the
means
branch,
liking logic.
the branch of knowledge that deals with the structure, historical development and relationships of a language or languages,
Okay.
literary or classical scholarship. What's the difference between linguistics? Linguistics is the study of language in all its aspects. In British English, the word philology denotes the historical study of language. Okay, okay. Um, Historical and theological. Among the early Muslim scholars discussed in this paper are al Baladari, al Biruni, Ibn al Nadim, al Sharastani, al Tabari, al Hamadani, and the contemporary Muslim scholars is Muhammad Hamidullah, Hamid Abdul Qadir, Hamza Yusuf, and Shah Riza Kazemi. Wow, look at that. And Emetaz Yusuf. The studies suggest the position of Buddha as a prophet in the Islamic tradition are justified based on selected terms in the Quran like teen, dual kifr, and Sabian. This paper concludes that there's a strong relation between Islam and Buddhism and early Islamic literature.
Saint James said, "Hey, can we get an English speaker on the panel?"
You're more than welcome. The link is in the
Mhm. He
description.
said English. No, no, he's trying to say that we can't speak English.
To
That's what he's trying
smash
to say.
the. You know what? With your philological, like, get out of here with your philological. What's the other one I had a hard time with this whole time? Um, Cosmological. Cosmological. Um, yeah, stop hating.
Cosmological.
Yeah, that. Um, Islam is a religion that recognizes the existence of various religions in the world. In the
Hey,
Quran, Allah.
take Saint James down. Take him down so we can see the screen bigger, so people can see the screen bigger.
Oh, sorry. Uh,
Thanks, Saint James, for the comment.
where? Oh, StreamYard. That's right. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, man.
All right. Um, in the Quran, Allah states the names of the world religions such as Islam, the Jews, the Sabians, the Christians, and the Magians, and the polytheists. There are religions that are not clearly mentioned in the Quran as Buddhism, although those religions existed thousands of years earlier before the birth of Prophet Muhammad. Apart from the name of the religion, the Quran also classifies people into three categories, namely al Tawheed, which refers to people who believed in oneness of Allah and the prophets of his messenger; al Kitab, the people of the book, which refers to Jews and Christians who are possessors of divine books, as distinguished to the people of dubious from those whose religions are not based on divine revelation, such as Zoroastrianism and pagans. Although each religion has its own theological and ritual system, the interaction between the believers is harmonious, as demonstrated by the Prophet in a series of dialogues, especially with the Al Kitab, like the Jews and Christians. The initial approach of such interaction is that, fully guided by the Quran and Hadith, is manifested verbally and in writing, together with a good example Qudwa al-Hasanah in the 7th century after the death of the Prophet. Effort to convey the teaching of Islam was continued by the companions and caliphs through expeditions to expand the Islamic empire that includes the Central Asian regions. Previously, the interaction only involves the religions mentioned in the Quran, while the expansion of the Islamic Empire in the Persian East, Transoxiana, Afghanistan, and Sind.
Transaxiana.
Yeah,
Transaxiana. I can't even see it. It's so small, but know the word. Yeah, Transaxiana. That's all. Again, okay, yeah, that's good. That's better. Was way better. Way better. Okay,
area.
make it bigger if you can.
That's as big as I can get it.
Okay, then, okay. Then.
Um, Afghanistan and Sind areas open a new avenue through interaction with the Buddhists. Due to the lack of information about Buddhism, there are polemic among the Muslims in determining Buddhist positions according to Islamic jurisprudence. That is, whether to consider them the same as the dhimmi, like the people, to consider them same as the dhimmi, like the people of the book, and vice versa. This has led to the in-depth study of scholars on Buddhist origins, doctrines, and rituals of Buddhism based on historical and theological view in the form of narrative and comparative discourses. The literature on Buddhism and early Muslim scholars is limited due to lack of fundamental discussion in the major sources of Islam, the Quran and Hadith. For example, the Quran only states about the six main religions, namely Islam, Jews, Christians, Sabian, Magians, and polytheists, without mentioning any term considering the Buddha. Foremost in the early Quran exegesis as Ibn Abi Hatim and al-Tabari. However, the implications of the power expansion policy of the 7th and 8th centuries, beginning in the Umayyad expansion to Central Asia region, interaction with the Buddhists occurred. In early stages, see, look, Buddhists were categorized as people of the book and was subsequently considered as people of the dhimmi after reviewed by the caliph.
That
So
yeah
in
yeah. Well, who's caliph? Which caliphate was that?
Umayyads, look, beginning
I
with the
know, but
Umayyads.
Umayyads were very corrupt. The Umayyads
Oh,
were terrible. The Umayyads were not theologically sound at all. The only good Umayyad was Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. The rest of them were terrible people.
mm. Oh, it looked like it was the first whoever's, because it says in the early stages they were categorized as people of the book
It's
and
wrong
was
because see, yeah,
subsequently considered people after reviewed by the caliph. So
okay,
maybe
yeah, because I'm about to say they cannot just be considered dhimmi. Because I mean, people of the book. Because even the Zawashins, who they first came across in Iran, the Magi's, they're considered dhimmi, but not considered people of the book. That's why you
right,
can't marry them. But you can. So yes, there were. I can see that Buddhism is definitely dhimmi. I can see that. That's not a question. But my point is trying to make them people of the book. That's the controversy.
right, but this is saying that they were, but then they changed their mind.
Who? How can they work? So who declared them, and how can the caliph change their mind? So what you're trying to say is that who outside the caliph declared them? So if there's somebody who's not the caliph, who's under the caliph's rule, declared them, but the caliph is something else, that means whoever said that is not even has authority to declare them in the first place because the caliph didn't even give them the authority. That's why the caliph made a different decision than that person made. It's like they're making stretches.
All right. Okay, starting from the foundation that had been built in the early period, the Muslim Buddhism interaction grew during the Abbasid period, foremost in intellectual aspects. Subsequently, the integration in civilization, science, and culture between the Arab Persian world, Central Asian, and Western worlds was established through the translation works in various fields, for example, in astronomy, math, and medicine. On the other hand, the Caliph also offered a special position to Indian scholars, including Buddhist scientists, to serve in Baghdad to help develop the Baitul Hikmah as a distinguished scholarly institution. Its significance was continued initi- through the initiative initiated by the Caliph al-Mansur 754 to 775 and was continued by the Caliph of Harun al-Rashid, and thus recorded the first theological dialogue of Muslim Buddhists. This scenario then inspired the writing of Buddhism through the work of Bilahwar wa Buddhasaf by Ibn al-Lahiki, a leading poet in Baghdad. The work, produced in Persian, was later translated into Sanskrit, Arabic, and other languages. Another successful work is the book Al-Bud, which is also translated from Sanskrit to Arabic and subsequently became the main reference in the study of Buddhism, according to Imitaz Yusuf. The study of Buddhism during the period of Harun al Rashid was increasingly gaining attention when the Caliph appointed the Barmakid family, that is, Yahya bin Barmak, to hold important positions in the government administration. The Barmakid family originated from Balkh, South Afghanistan, held high positions in the Nava Vihara temple, a Buddhist center. Yahya bin Barmak, the grandson of the monk leader, was also a tutor to Caliph Harun al Rashid. In that position, he sent several of his officers to India to explore the ancient knowledge in medical as well as the religions that existed in India, including the Buddhas who had once been the religion of theirs. Yahya bin Barmak leads the translation of Sanskrit works and protects sources proving the Buddha's life. And even most of his early Arab and Persian literature sources were referred to by later Islamic scientists such as Ibn Khaldun, al-Maqdisi, al-Mawarzi,
DC.
Gardizi, and al-Shahrastani. Okay. So see, like these Barma kids, like they had like high positions and they were great like teachers and record keepers, and those abbasids you like hired them to come in and teach them and acquire all this knowledge. They translated a lot of things for them. um
No,
you know
we can keep reading this. Well, how long is this? Want to keep? How long is this? We can keep reading this.
yeah, it's not too much. It's not that long.
Yeah, we can keep
It's like a
reading.
good, like it goes along with everything that we've been
It goes.
talking.
We're doing. Yeah, it goes. Matter of fact, we can keep reading it. We could. This could be the last part of the series. This could be the bonus. This is the bonus. This is the bonus reading.
Yeah, this was that thing that I told you I'd downloaded like at the beginning of the thing.
Okay, this is the bonus reading. Okay, y'all can get a bonus. This is the bonus.
Yep.
They have a bonus. So let's make this the bonus. Yep, a bonus reading.
While in the ninth century and early stages, Muslim scholars focused on historical narratives without discussing the character of the Buddha as prophet. From theological aspect, the debate is limited to the result of the advent of Islamic scientists to the inhabited areas of the Buddha. giving certain characteristics to the worship houses, worshippers, and adherents of Buddhism. And there is an element of confusion when the character of God, the Buddha, is likened to the Lord of Hinduism.
What is that supposed to mean?
From a theological aspect, the debate is limited to the result of the advent of Islamic scientists to the inhabited areas, given certain characteristics to the worship houses, worshippers, and adherents of Buddhism, according to all these guys. And there is an element of confusion when the character of God, the Buddha, is likened to the Lord of Hinduism.
Yeah, yeah, I don't understand what Lord Hinduism.
Who's the
Lord
God of
Shiva, Lord Shiva. I don't know who.
who's the God, the Buddha? That's what I would like to know.
Me
Only in
too.
the 10th century, Islamic scientists raised talks about the position of the Prophet for existence under the topic of Ashab Madhab al Hind by referring to the term al Bud to the character of Budasaf, Udasaf, according to all these guys, or a prophet. The al Biruni's account of India is more focused on Hinduism, and it is difficult to find Buddhism's debate. This was justified by Sachau that al-Biruni did not know much about Buddhism because his writing was theoretical and never arrived in India. This impression is not true because there are many records of al-Biruni's visit to the Buddhist community, including India. For example, when Mahmud Ghazni dominates Bukhara, al-Biruni has spent his life serving him and his son Masood. The domination of South India by Mahmud Ghazni succeeded with the help of al-Biruni. Moreover, al-Biruni in his work Al-Athar al-Baqiyah min al-Qarun al-Khaliyah does mention the character of Udasaf with the Sabian religion, which later supported by Tabrizi and Tabatabai in as the Buddhism in the Quran. Huh? I can't like understand this shit. Like, what are all these? Like, so many references. Like, okay,
Okay, yeah, it's not.
regarding Buddhism, Al Biruni in the Book of Al Hind explains the basis of Buddhist traditions and beliefs, as well as the perception of the Buddhist community as a prophet, as well as the perception of the Buddhist community as a prophet.
This just make no sense.
Yeah, like, does he
Why'd you
mean
write this thing?
perception of the Buddha as Buddhist or perception of what? Nevertheless, it does not mean that he proposes to the Muslims to recognize the position of Buddha as a prophet, maybe. But then he understands that Buddhists do not consider Shakyamuni's character as God, correct? The Al Biruni's legation was further developed by Al Sharistani, who also visited India in 11th and 12th centuries regarding Buddhism's standing in India. Entering the 13th century, the Mongols' attack on Baghdad led to the destruction of the Muslim scholars' works on Buddhism, which were either burned or partly thrown into the Tigris River until the ink transformed the river's water into black color. The implications paralyzed the Islamic world, which was centered in Baghdad. The only surviving book that brings together a significant number of important Islamic Buddhist relations in the Central Asian region is Jami al Tawariqs by Rashad al Din al Hamadani. The work of Rashid al-Din al-Hamadani on Buddhism, derived from Buddhist material from a Kashmiri Buddhist monk, Kamala Shri, besides from Central Asian Buddhism. Wait, material from beside. Oh, okay. Um, Perhaps the last was by Ibn Battuta, but works on Buddhism or the Buddhist position were no longer discussed among Muslim traditions until the 20th century, where Muslim scholars from Central Asia like Muhammad Hamadullah and Hamid Abdul Qadir started to stress the theme in their works. The same premise was later followed by other prominent Muslim scholars like Hamza Yusuf and Shah Riza Kazemi. And I thought it was Riza Shah Kazemi. Oh, anyway, and Imtiaz Yusuf, who discussed the significant relation of Muslim Buddhist relations in contemporary world. Discussions among prominent Muslim scholars like Imtiaz were supported by philological arguments instead of theology and history. However, the premise is open to debate due to lack of support from early Muslims, mufassirin, on the selected terms in the Quran, which is teen, dual kifr, al Sibian. However, this argument was supported by prominent Muslims, al Qasimi and Tabatabai, regarding the Buddha as one of the prophets. So, result and discussion. The Muslim scholars' discourse on the Buddha position was analyzed from three arguments. First, philology. Second, historical. Third, theological. The philology argument refers to special terms in the Quran that refers to the Buddha indirectly, like the other prophets, Adam, Noah, Moses, Jesus, etc., while the historical argument is based on the early narrative on Buddhism by focusing on the general concept of prophet, while on the theological, the argument stress on the similarity element of Buddhism with Islamic teaching. Oh, so we went through this. This was about the Al Qadr. So, in terms of philology, it's based on three verses in the Quran. I read all that. So, as a guide to all mankind, the Quran describes the prophets either directly or indirectly. There are 24,000 of prophets sent by Allah to all mankind, and only 25 of them were selected as an apostle, while 5 of them were selected as the Ulul Azmi, the higher ranking of apostle. Um, Hold on, I just want to make sure. Okay, did I pin the? For real, I couldn't really add to the discussion. No, it's all good, James. Thank you for coming through. I appreciate it. Um, okay, among the apostle as prophet Dual Kifl, as stated in 2 verses above. The history of prophets Dual Kifl is not discussed in many Islamic narrations. With regards to the founder of Buddhism, Siddhartha Gautama, Muslim scholars like Muhammad Hamadullah and Hamid Abdul Qadir stated that the Buddha was prophet Dua Kifl in the Quran. Justification for this was made based off the word kifl, which means someone from kifli. The word of kifl is Arabicized from Kapila phrase and is short for the name Kapilavastu. Kapilavastu is the birthplace of the Buddha, hence is named by Dua Kifl. So yeah, this was this huge stress. Instead, the
Yeah,
term.
because I would have to research Dullah Kifl and see exactly who he is in Islamic sense because I mean, and
Mm,
even that I still wouldn't even consider until I could prove a monotheistic trend within Buddhism. You understand?
right.
Because
So this one was about the fig, yeah, and then The four
And he
symbols.
was stretching like, and he was stretching like crazy. I remember, right? Was he stretching like
Yeah,
crazy, like
yeah,
super stretch, like Stretch Armstrong,
yeah. Someone was like interpret it as a fruit. Some of them
limousine.
suggested symbolical for a place. Um, this guy suggests the teen to refers to the Bodhi tree due to the tree growing much in the Indian subcontinent and Indochina rather than the Middle East. Contrarily, the species of Bodhi tree is from the Ficus carissa, not Ficus religiose, which only grows in the Middle East and West Asia. But the argument can be accepted since both originated from the same family of Moraceae. Moreover, the Bodhi tree, also known with 7 names in Sanskrit tradition as Patala, Bignonia, Pundrika, lotus, Sala, Shaurya robusta, Saresha, uh, Ach, Ak- Acacia cyrrhiza, Udambra, Nyagrota, and Avasta, Ficus religiosa. On the other hand, those are all like scientific name for plants. On the other hand, the Buddhist scholars define the Bodhi tree with different species like the dragonflower tree, champak tree, dragon tree, kesser dragon tree, and ironwood tree. In fact, not just in Buddhism, the species of Ficus religiosa is also considered sacred tree in the texts of Hindu Jain, such as the Bhagavad Gita, and the claim to regard the Buddha as a prophet, eventually recognized by contemporary Muslims as one of the views. The claim to regard the Buddha what's Mufassirin? Like a Mufassirin.
Mufassir. I don't know what that is. Contemporary Muslim Mufassirin. One of the views. I have to go look at it. Okay. Search for it if you can.
Mufassirin? What does it mean? Hold on.
I'm gonna look for it again. Let me look for it. Mufassir. Mu- Mufassir meaning. Okay, Mufassir meaning. Mufasa meaning. Okay, okay. Don't worry. I got it. It's some. Hold on. Wait. What the hell? What's going so slow?
Describer, the scholars who interpret the Hadith.
Yeah, describer. Hold on. Why is my?
It's plural of the singular Mufassir.
Yeah.
It says describer of the scholars who interpret the Hadith. Okay. So,
Yeah, it takes long. Man.
Bodhi
Okay. Let me test
tree
here.
that related with Siddhartha's history, on the other hand, was compared by HOK, I don't know what that stands for, Rahmat, with the story of Prophet Moses during receiving revelation. When Siddhartha was under the Bodhi tree, he decided not to move until he had great truth and knowledge. For 49 days he meditated, and eventually the light came to him. While Moses was mentioned in the Quran, and has come to you the story of Moses when he saw the fire, then said to his family, wait, I seen the fire. May I bring you a flame from it, or I can guide you from it? When he came to him, he was summoned. O Moses, behold, I'm your Lord. Open your 2 shoes. Indeed, you're now in the valley of Tua, and I chosen you. Then consider what is revealed. So the light for Siddhartha can be symbolized as a fire to the prophet
That's
Moses.
such a
Stretch,
stretch.
definite stretch.
Wow.
Really different
Wow.
types of light. Like you can't just take a candle in the sun and say that they're the same thing. Like
Okay, I'm gonna go Mufasa. Okay, this is from the Oxford Islamic Studies, right? About Mufasa again, right? Mufasa is the writer of a commentary on the Quran. The word likely has the earliest usage in the 10th century, designating a specific group of people. Prior to that, other terms such as alatawil, right? People of interpretation were used. Alatawil, okay, people of interpretation were used. Most significant religious scholars saw the role of mufassir as part of being um, a jurist, theologian, and grammarian. In modern times, the activity has become laicized, um, um, laicized. I'm sorry, has become laicized and no longer necessarily designates someone with formal religious training or exceptional ability in grammar and history.
Hmm. Okay. It's like a scholar then.
It's been laicized, so it's become like something like even like secular scholars are doing, or people like Orientalists are doing, and things like that.
Hmm. Okay.
That's what I'm just saying. I'm just giving you the Oxford Islamic Studies definition of mufassir.
Cool. Thanks. Um. All right. So the historical argument. So from the historical point of view, al-Makdisi divided the Buddhists into two categories, which one of it believed the Buddha is a prophet charged with a mission, and others believe he is divine incarnation. While a Muslim religious scholar and historian, Al-Tabari, prefers not to involve with the polemic, instead describing what he experienced in general. He reported that Buddhist idols were brought from Kabul, Afghanistan to Baghdad in the 9th century. It is also reported that Buddhist idols were sold in Buddhist temple next to the mosque in the market of the city of Bukhara in present Uzbekistan. Parallel with al-Makdisi, for the Persian historian al-Biruni wrote a book about India, Kitab al-Hind, and described the basic Buddhist customs and beliefs and noted that the Indians regarded Buddha as a prophet. Similarly, on his work Al-Athar al-Baqiyah min al-Karun al-Kaliya al-Biruni did mention the Buddhasaf was among the pseudo prophet who came forward in India after the first year of Tamurath. He introduced the Persian writing and called
It's a pseudo
people.
prophet. Pseudo prophet means fake prophet. That's what pseudo
Yeah,
means.
yeah, yeah. I know. So, he introduced the Persian writing and called people to the religion of the Sabians. What?
You remember when we studied the Sabians that day, but the Mandeans and the Sabians. Remember the Sabians and
Yeah,
the
yeah. But
John the
who's
Baptist?
calling them to the
Oh
religion of that?
no, this guy, this pseudo prophet.
Uh, okay. However, for Berzin, that does not mean, of course, that he was suggesting that Muslims accept Buddha as a prophet of Allah, but it does indicate that he understood that Buddhists do not assert Shakyamuni as their god. The works of al-Biruni on Buddhism was repeated by Ibn Nadim in al-Firist. He delineates the different scholarly views of the Buddha. Some believed he was the divine incarnate, some believed he was the apostle from the kind of angels, some believed he was the Ifrit kind of jinn, while others believed him as an apostle from God in the form of human race. Ibn al-Nadim then stated, "These people, the Buddhists of Khorasan, are the most generous of all the inhabitants of the earth and all the religionists. This is because their prophet Buddhasaf Bodhisattva has taught them that the greatest sin which should never be thought of or committed is the utterance of no. Hence they act upon this advice. They regard the uttering of no as an act of Satan, and is their very religion to banish Satan." Okay. Uh, uh,
Stretch Armstrong.
Yeah, man. Yeah, facts, facts.
How do you know it?
We don't even believe in Satan. Like, I don't. I don't ever heard of this Buddha stuff though. Maybe that's like their. I don't know. By the 12th century, al-Sharistani also repeated al-Biruni's account of Buddhism in his book entitled The Book of Religions and Creeds. Al-Sharistani placed the Buddha's position as Prophet Khidr, which can be summarized as follows. Buddha was an ideal human. He was not born? No. What? He did not get old? What? Okay, Buddha was an ideal human. He was not born, did not get old, and even did not die. He avoided the pleasure of eating, drink, and remained celibate all his life. He was a perfect ascetic and exemplary model for his disciples. Accordingly, a Buddhist can be defined as a seeker of truth, a practitioner of various aesthetic works, and a holder of the deepest sense of inner morality. This first part is completely false. No Buddhist
Yeah,
will tell you
yeah.
this. There's an entire chapter. It's one of the longest suttas in the whole canon. It spans um, all different schools. Is the Mahaparinirvana Sutra, and that's the entire story of his death, like his his exit, like um. So I don't know, and he was definitely born like his mother died. Like there's I don't know where he's getting all that from. um the second part, and see about this, like avoided the pleasure of eating, that's not true, because he realized that the Jains were wrong in their ways of aestheticism, and he said that it was like you will die practicing like that, so that's where he came with the middle path. Like it's not too, like you don't eat too much and you don't eat too little. Um, and he wasn't celibate all his life because he had a son, which became one of his disciples. Um, okay, Buddhist ethical practices include having patience, giving alms, renouncing this world, abstaining from greed and worldly pleasure, and showing compassion for all creatures. Thus, a Buddhist is required to live an ethically correct life. In addition to practicing these aesthetic disciplines, a Buddhist is encouraged to pursue spiritual perfection. He must enhance his intelligence and seek a higher existence. By doing so, he can liberate himself from the lower world that is destined to decline, live in the eternal world, and eventually be led to the presence of divine beings. Buddhism places importance on aesthetic disciplines and spiritual endeavor. At the end of this description, Sharastani states that Buddha, in the Buddhist context, can be compared to Al-Qadr, a legendary Islamic saint whose existence is taken for granted by Muslims. Ugh.
I mean, and he's arguing from somebody looking back at somebody from the past and what they're saying, but the person in the past might not have the best understanding of Buddhism and try to fill in the blanks and try to do a bunch of stretching. And he himself is doing a bunch of stretching, so it's a bunch of stretching upon. He's stretching by using he's stretching and he's also trying to cite people from the past who also did a lot of stretching too. So it's like double stretching upon stretching.
Mm. Yeah, so I mean, I can see like it, and this is why I was interested in that book called Al Bud, like because if this is the way that like people looked at them, like I can see why they have this outlook on him. um so thus, from a historical argument, Muslim scholars have different views on the Buddha. Al-Maqdisi, al-Biruni, and Ibn Nadim agree with the position of Buddha as a prophet without naming it, while al-Tabari did not discuss it except gave some general narratives on Buddhism. Only al-Sharistani begins to compare it to Prophet Khidr. However, the timeline of Keter that exists at the same period of Moses contradicts the period of Siddhartha, which exists 1,000 years earlier. Since there's no established view of his identity, Muslim scholars, mostly those with a South Asian background like Muhammad Hamadullah, followed by Hamid Abdul Qadir, regards the Buddha as a prophet named Dullah Kifr. However, the character Dullah Kifl was identified by some scholars with Ezekiel, born at Babylon, that existed around 100 years before Siddhartha. The character of Ezekiel is an important
Yeah.
figure in Abrahamic faith, Islamic Christianity, Judaism. Hence, according to the history timeline, Dual-Kifl is referred to the prophet Ezekiel, nor the Qadir was contradict. The only justification by 21st century Muslim scholars like Hamza Yusuf and Shah Riza Kazemi and Imtiaz Yusuf on characterization of Dua Kifl with Siddhartha as prophets was based on the premise of the unmentioned name of prophets in the Quran. In this regard, the unmentioned name of the Buddha in the Quran does not deny the existence of other verses that stated him indirectly. It is known that the number of the prophets is 124,000, while the messengers are known to be 25. To strengthen the position of Buddha as prophet, Riza Shah Kazemi outlines 6 premises based on the verses of the Quran. First, every community has a special messenger. Secondly, there are names of prophets and messengers that are not narrated. Third, existence of religious and Sharia rules for every people. Fourth, every messenger who was pronounced in the language of their people. 5. Every prophet who was sent was revealed to reveal the teachings of Tawhid. The 6. The challenge faced by the prophet exactly the challenge of the previous prophet. So these premises justify the position of Buddha as prophet. Well,
What the heck? What?
what?
What? What?
Like,
See, that's the thing. If
how
you can
is
prove
that
Tawheed,
a
but
rule or like yeah,
wow, wow, wow,
that's blown. Like that's a
wow,
mhm mhm. That's a rule for right there.
man.
All right. Let's see. So the theological argument is the debate that described the Buddha as prophet brought the teachings of Taoist backed up with the existence of several elements in parallel with the teachings of Islam. Firstly, the doctrine of God. Secondly, universal values. Thirdly, spiritual wisdom. For the doctrine of God, Muslim scholars have different view with regards to Buddhism's doctrine, whether as non-theistic or theistic. For al-Baladari, al-Tabari, and al-Maqdisi, they describe Buddha with theistic, which is apart from Islamic teaching. The same goes to al-Biruni, followed by al-Sharistani, that Buddhists have their own concept of idolatry and not worshipping Allah. However, for the 20th century Muslims, by supporting the idea of Buddha as prophet, the Islamic worldview on Buddhism are open to debate. Like other prophets, it was Buddha's mission to correct the religious inclination of his time. Otherwise, the tradition subsequently became corrupted. While justifying the, the Buddhism as a non theistic religion, Imran Nazar Hossein asserts it is the original teaching of the Buddha, and in the Hinayana sect, there is no God. However, this does not connote atheism, denial of existence of God. That's not what atheism means anyway. Rather, it affirms the existence of any deity. What? Apparently, Buddha was once asked by a disciple whether God existed. He refused to reply. When pressed, he remarked to the effect that if you are suffering from a stomach ache, you'd be concerned with the relief of the pain, or that was the arrow, the bow and arrow thing. He totally like
Yeah.
or the pain or studying the prescription of the physician. Like he kind of messed up the analogy. It is not my business or yours to find out whether there's a God. Our business is to remove the suffering of the world. Hence, by providing the doctrine of Dhamma or impersonal law in place of God. Mm, okay. For Riza Kazemi, he agrees with the non-theistic of Buddha's doctrine. In other words, it shows there's no personal divinity playing the role of creator, revealer, or judge in Buddhism, but to assert that the Buddha's doctrine is atheistic would be to attribute to him an explicit denial and negation of the absolute, which one does not find anywhere in his teachings. Even regarded as non theistic, the concept is close to the concept of shunya. Denial in the Buddha? What? Even regarded as non theistic, the concept is close to the concept of shunya in the Buddha and Shahada. Oh, this is where they try to do it at the Shahada. Yeah, this is the concept of shunya in Buddhism denies the existence of God. That's not right. That's not what shunya means. While the concept of Shahada in Islam contains the pronouncement of denial and the pronouncement of confirmation. The word rash is by denying the existence of God in the sense that no God exists, then followed by the word by affirming that only God is the only God who exists. Hence, the disclaimer of the Buddha's teachings to the existence of God is exactly the first pronouncement in Shahada of Islam. This was they're even quoting the same author of the book we just read. This was a huge stretch that I totally did not agree with. Um, for the universal values that promoted by Islam, Buddhists suggest Islam is based on 6 pillars of faith and has 5 pillars of Islam, while Buddha is subject to 4 noble truths and eightfold paths. Both teaching also share the value of kindness, patience, and love as the core of human nature. Whereas in terms of spiritual wisdom and as aestheticism, Buddhist teachings use the term anicca, while Islam applies the terms of zud. Anicca, as in the Buddha, why anicca as in the Buddha? Like what? As in the teachings
Yeah.
refer to something that is immortal, which becomes a barrier to one to see the true nature of the world. Parallel with Islam, life in the world, al haya al dunya, is not eternal life. Thus, in the concept of Zud, one separates himself from worldly things, in the sense that life in the hereafter is eternal. Both terms thought to have different concepts but share the same connotations as the no anicca is it's dukkha anicca anatta, so suffering, non-self, and what is anicca? Um, Impermanence. Like impermanence, it doesn't refer to something that's immortal. Yeah, I didn't agree with that in the book. So, ironically, The theological arguments regarding the position of the Buddha is far more complex than the philology and historical arguments. Furthermore, there are three main schools in Buddhism: Theravada, Mahayana, and Hinayana, which originated from different backgrounds and have different concepts of theology. However, by relating the theological concept in Islam teaching with general doctrine in Buddhism, like Shunya with Shahada, he spelled it wrong, and Anicca with Zud, indirectly, it can consider as coming from the same source, which is from the divine. How can impermanence come from the in short,
It's
the three.
super stretching. I don't know what he's saying.
Yeah, it's
He's
just
just yapping. He's just
yeah,
yapping. Really, he's yapping.
nonsense right here, like absolute nonsense. In short, the three of arguments, philology, historical, and theological, can be summarized as follows. So these are people who agreed with it on these levels. So in early, it seemed like people did agree with the theological aspect. It looks like. Okay. Conclusion. In Islamic teaching, the religion of Tawhid begins with the sending of Adam and followed by 100,000 of prophet and messengers, either named or characterized with the figure uh, vice versa. Muslims need to believe on their prophethood as to bring mankind to the truth. The Quran states every nation has their own prophet, thus Muslims believe no nation will be abandoned without a prophet or messenger to guide them. As Islam is a propagation religion, Muslims need to deliver the message to all mankind. Furthermore, the Quran has classified religion into three categories: people of Islam, people of the book, and people of dubious. The Quran also refutes the false doctrine of other religions to call them to the truth. Until the 7th century, by the expansion of Muslims' empire to a region that was dominated by unmentioned religion like Buddhism, Muslims start to learn about it, however, with limited sources. From the 9th to 11th century, Muslim scholars agreed to the position of Buddha as a prophet from theological and historical arguments. These arguments include the refutation and criticism on Buddhist doctrine, which are apart from Islamic teaching. While from the 13th to 20th century, Muslim scholars, particularly originated from Central Asia, were keen to regard the Buddha as prophet, not just from theological and historical argument, but from the philological argument as well. By comparing the Buddha with the Islamic teaching, there are proofs that Muslim scholars are keen to be close with other religions, in particular Buddhism, by identifying the similarity elements of both religions. In addition, it's shown that Islam is always concerned in promoting good relationship with other religions using the best approaches. Like, I don't feel like this happens anymore. Like I feel like maybe anciently they were
Yeah, I
okay with
do.
it, but I feel contemporary people, like I don't know of many contemporary people besides this guy, especially any contemporary or like modern day Sunni scholars that would
So you
even
won't.
consider this,
But
you know?
the what's name I consider is to kind of like, for example, I've seen the Deputy Grand Mufti of Oman go to Japan and talk about the similarities of Oman and Japan.
Okay. It would be interesting to know his your Iman's thoughts on this and what, like what his opinion would be um
Yeah.
concerning Buddhism.
Hmm.
It
Yeah,
would be
would. But definitely gonna see. I know for a fact if they cannot prove monotheism, I'm not gonna say he's not gonna say he's a prophet of Allah.
exactly, which is
That's for
gonna
a
be hard
fact.
pressed to do. Like you're gonna be hard pressed to find that because it's not.
Yeah,
What the hell is?
because that's one of the things. If he didn't come to confirm monotheism, he's not a prophet in Islam. If he didn't come to propagate monotheism.
Mm, right. Um. Okay, this study received the support and fund. Oh, this references. All right, so that was it for that, really. Which is basically like you see the our book that we just read, like quoted a couple of times, and then the religious diversity in a Buddhist majority country. The case of Islam in Thailand. That would be interesting to really to read. Um, but yeah, I mean, this sounds. It's just like sounds great for us, right? Like it sounds great, but at the same time, he's not always saying factual things. You know what I'm saying? Like he's not always like
Yeah,
portraying our like core beliefs in the right way. Um,
it's poorly written. It's really poorly
yeah,
written.
that paper was shite, actually. Like,
It's
yeah.
poorly written. What? Like, who made that paper?
That paper was
That was poorly
crap.
written. That was poorly written.
Yeah,
It was like Book
they
of
had
Buddhism.
spelling errors and freaking like just the like calling like Buddhism Buddha and weird like yeah, it's just really terribly
Yep,
written.
yep, yep.
Um,
Terribly written.
but I mean, like you can only kind of hope that like people would even consider having a kind of dialogue like this. You know what I'm saying? And I appreciate the efforts of these guys for doing so and kind of opening that up, you know?
Yeah,
So, I mean, like we said the whole time, like we can see that, you know, that it definitely acknowledge the differences, but also like appreciate the efforts of what these guys are trying to do because it is important, you know, and especially in nowadays where religions are just looking worse and worse to the average person. um I think the last paragraph, like the last couple paragraphs of that book that were important, like we are the propagators of our faith, and like if we can't treat people nicely and justly, like they failed us, like our faiths have failed us, or we have
yeah,
failed
yeah,
them.
yeah,
you know
yeah. Yep. That's
so
definitely true.
hmm like all those monks in Myanmar, they're all failing the Buddha, you know failing him horribly.
Hmm.
And he would say like you're not a follower of mine. So
Man.
hmm
Yep, yep, yep. And you already know what I think. All them people, a lot of people that come when you're failing the Prophet Muhammad. He was here. He'd be embarrassed with all of y'all. That's what I think. The same thing. Yep.
yeah.
I mean, exactly. We have to be the best people. Like the Prophet, peace and blessings upon Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings upon us, told us that God, He commands the best in everything. He commands Ihsan in everything. So it's about we should have Ihsan first and foremost, or the best, or excellence, or perfection first in humanity. We know no matter what you believe, you at least most people. Okay, there's gonna be some people who disagree, but most people at least believe that we are humans. We are humans. We all have the human condition. So can we perfect our humanity? No, I don't think anybody can go against the nobility of this endeavor to perfect our our the ethical way we treat each other as human beings. Especially what we communicate to each other.
Right, and that's what it comes down to at the end. Like all of this learning and everything, like what good is it for if you can't treat your fellow person, like if you're gonna be a bad person, then it's all, I don't know, it's all for nothing really, right? Like it doesn't even mean anything. You can know everything and memorize every book, but like if you're still cussing people and making people feel like crap, then all that knowledge ain't really worth much, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying?
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. You're
Yeah,
exactly right. So we did a good job, man. We did good. We did this series. Thanks to
yeah,
everybody
we
for
got
coming
it.
out. Thanks. Why so religious? See why so religious just dropped through. Yeah, why we did good. We did this, so hopefully going forward, I hope we put enough good energy that we might have done that some goodness came into the world by this endeavor, because it's a lot of people that use these platforms like YouTube to just have a lot of drama, a lot of division. But I hope we could set a new page, a new gear that we have way more healthy talks and use the gifts we have in our technology to improve our mental, moral, ethical, and hospitable outlook to each other and humanity.
It's a fact. That's a big fact. And I think if people could just do that, then we would be, there would be so much less division and, like, I don't know, kind of thinking people are less, or because they don't do the same thing or whatever. Like, yeah, this has been good, man. I want to keep this up. And
Okay, we got plan. We go back to the drawing board and plan another series. Plan another series now. But this is the conclusion of this series though. I'm glad we did it. We did it. 12 episodes. 12
gee,
long episodes, long sessions, not even episodes, sessions. 12 sessions, power sessions. If we do
yeah,
this again, it has to be a really good work because the amount of effort we put in doing it, it has to be a really good work. You know what I'm trying to say?
yeah.
Nothing
What I was,
justify. It's nothing justify this much effort. Yeah, it has to be a good
yeah,
work.
like what I was thinking was like, there's this book on, basically, like, I want to find a Sikh to go through the next one with me. There's this book that I found on, the Buddha and Guru Nanak. So, like, I would love to go through that one with, like, one of the Sikh fellas, and then maybe, like, find a Christian, because there's so many different books on that. Like, we got someone in mind I might, do that with, but I don't want to put anything in stone yet. But yeah, like, if anybody has any suggestions, or maybe we could get the atheists up here and do one, and I could try to sell Buddhism to them as a atheistic or non-theistic religion, because I'd
Yeah,
rather
I'm about to
have a
say yeah.
Buddhist than atheist.
Yeah. I feel you because you atheist anyway, so you might as well. If you atheist anyway, I mean, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'm not promoting atheism. I'm not promoting atheism to the world. Please, so
No,
don't be inclusive. But if you're already atheist, I mean, what's Buddhism gonna really hurt? Like you're already atheist anyway. So
right, right.
what's Buddhism gonna hurt you? Like it's not gonna affect your atheism.
Exactly, exactly. But yeah, I would love to get into some of the I would love to keep this going, and with the comparative things. So yeah, man, like, if anybody has any comparative religion kind of things, they, drop them in the comments, leave your suggestions. If anybody would like to come on and have a discussion about comparative religion in a civil and respectable manner, I have no problem doing that either. Even talking about differences, or, I could only do the best I can as far as knowledge. Um, but yeah, I would like to, I think this was great. I like these more, um, kind of dialogues, instead of trying to, like, disprove what you believe or destroy this, or just that's just dumb to me. Like, nobody has destroyed Islam to this day. Like, what's the point?
And the
like
thing about it though, it's just a lot of people just want to come on and be malicious, and maliciousness in the day doesn't help anything.
right, right, like
Maliciousness is not helping anything. Yeah.
exactly. And like, is being malicious in good character? Like, is that going against your beliefs, right? Because like the prophet came to perfect good character. So is being malicious or vindictive, is that following the
No,
prophet?
it's not at all.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's definitely going against what Buddha taught, you know? And I mean, I know we're not perfect, but all we can do is strive to be better people with better intentions, you know what I'm saying?
Yep,
So,
yep.
yeah, I
Better
like.
people with better intentions. Yep, because even Islam starts with an intention. We call it niyat. So yeah, it's
Mhm.
about we can all we can all say we can improve, all of us, no matter your theological, non-theological, whatever you are. You can all say we can we can ameliorate or perfect or whatever word you want to use, all our good intentions that we could have. We could come to one good intention for mankind. I think we should be, it's a noble thing to strive for, to have one good intention for all mankind.
Facts. I believe that too. Yeah, yeah. I think that's a good rap, man.
Yep.
Yeah. So what you thinking? Anything else, or what is it?
Nah.
13? Yeah, I gotta work tomorrow. So.
Yeah, get away. It's good. It's good to stop. I mean, we should end this time at 12. But it's good. I mean, it was a it was a long journey. It
Yeah,
was
it
a
was
good long
nice though.
journey. Nice.
Yeah,
That nice.
I'm so appreciative of you doing this for real, man.
Yeah.
This
You're
is a
welcome.
great
You're welcome.
series.
Anytime.
Mm,
I hope your future projects, you can find people to do your future project. I did this one, but if you need me help to do any project, I mean, even if it's another religion, I can still help you do it. Um,
yeah, absolutely,
because
bro.
I like
Absolutely.
learning about any religion. I don't mind. I mean, it's always good to learn. So, but
Hmm.
we could add other people and do other things like that. But thank you for
Yeah,
letting me co-produce and be featured on this program with you. Thank
no,
you. Thank
it
you
was
very
a
much.
pleasure, bro. It was a pleasure. Big up to everyone in the chat who stopped by and who stuck this out with us and who rode with us throughout. You know, big up everyone. Dr.
Okay.
Mason, got a Jacob, Oneness, Victor, been here every show. Big up
Yeah,
yourself. Oh,
Victor. Yep, Victor.
Jay,
Victor was here. It was, who's the most? Who's here the most? Victor was probably here the most. Victor and Aduki was here a lot too.
yeah, Iduki too. Yep, he's
Aduki,
been here riding with
Victor
us.
was here. They're the ones.
Yep,
But everybody was here. Born,
Dean Steven,
James.
James and
James.
popped in a couple times. Yeah, James
Yeah,
likes that beef thing though. Like he wants to debate it out. You know, he wants to destroy it. Hashtag ended. You know, that's it.
yeah, no, but but Joe, but he didn't want to come in at this because he like see at least he kind of understand what we're doing. I think he respects that we're not actually this right now is
Yeah, of
not a
course, of course.
and that's
Yep.
good. Because it don't always got to be like that. James and everybody else. I mean, there's too many people here that could use their minds to build a better understanding for everybody. You know what I'm trying to say?
Mhm.
We waste a lot of time. I mean, we waste too much time sometimes online. Just having unconstructive arguments. You know?
Right. Oh, I forgot. I wanted to say public. I know I told you privately, but I wanted to um, say publicly that our last session at the end, I was really tired, and I did say some things that I regretted, like some things like "this is dumb" or "this is stupid" or "this is the dumbest thing I ever heard in my life," and I just wanted to apologize because that was unnecessary speech, and I wasn't. That was my own attachment to views that was kind of making me say that because we were on about the rituals, right? Which is really like there's so much rituals that humans do, and just because like your rituals are different than my rituals, I really shouldn't have said that they were
Yeah.
dumb or to me or whatever. even, regardless of my opinion, wasn't really needed. So yeah, I just did want to apologize to that and anybody that may have been offended by something that I said um, towards the end there. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
understand.
mm,
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for that. And thank you just for because I know this type of work takes a lot of charity. It takes a lot of charity to do this type of work, and sometimes yet sometimes we don't always find the charity that takes to do the thing, but the fact that we did this all along and you did it, I mean, it was still good. I mean, it was a long stretch. You know what I'm saying? It was a long stretch. So you're gonna say there's gonna be times where because we did a lot of heavy lifting. You know what I'm saying? When it,
yeah,
we went to places that is not common for people just to go to any type of talks. You know what I'm trying to say? And to keep up the civility as long as we did, that was good. You know what I'm trying to say? To
yeah.
keep
I
up
think we
the civility.
disagreed in the best of ways. Like we definitely like. There's a lot of times like, okay, like I'm gonna have to agree to this. Like I'm never gonna understand this, and you were like, yeah, I'm never gonna get that. And like we were able to walk away with that and still be cool. You know what I'm saying? And that means a lot.
Yeah.
Like
Yep. Yep.
that's what I like. Like I like to be able to disagree and kind of to lay all of it out and then just still disagree and still walk away cool with the person. Like that's I think a lot of what, shows character and just about being an adult, you know what I'm saying?
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, so big up
Okay.
everybody. I think it's a good place to end it.
Yes, it's perfect.
And yeah, keep posted. I'll probably be doing some, whatever. I think I might do a little drama stream tomorrow or, the next days. So, you know
Mhm.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Have a little of this, little of that. And once I get this next project go, I'll start posting it up. And
Mhm.
yeah, keep posted, everyone.
Yeah. Comment, and subscribe, and put notifications.
Yeah, hit that like, hit that like. All right, everybody. I wish you all happy, healthy, and safe, and peace.
Peace.